Hello everyone and welcome to the BUSR F1 Winter Series. This evening sees the second of 8 races this season, and after a dominant performance from Matty Mumu in the States last weekend, we cross over the border into Mexico to race at the historical Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez circuit. First held all the way back in 1963, the inaugural race was won by the legend that is Jim Clark for Lotus, and 60 years on, mirroring the real-life F1 calendar this weekend, which of our drivers will be added to that great list of Grand Prix winners at a race where the BUSR has never been before? In the virtual commentary box this evening, we have myself, Tom, and alongside me is Alex. How are you doing, buddy?
Hi there, doing very well, thank you. I am new to this scene and first time here. So great to be here. Thank you so much for having me on. A little bit about myself. I'm Alex. I'm a student at Royal Holloway. I study astrophysics. I'm the current president of the Motorsport Society that they have there. And yeah, and I've and this year I thought I'd take on more of a role of getting myself into the sim racing side of things. And I thought, what better way to do this than commentary work?
An excellent CV that you bring with you as well, I must say. Hopefully, it's not going to be a baptism of fire as we kick off your commentary career with a sprint race. The divisive topic in real life, and hopefully we have an interesting couple of races this evening. Thoughts on the track, though? It's come under a little bit of criticism in real life for its lack of overtaking action. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's a bit of a fun circuit, really. You've got Sector 1, which is very technical. The corner, turns 1, 2, and 3 are very slow pace. But you come in from a incredibly high top speed, so you've got a massive braking zone down into turn 1, where in that first main straight, you have some of the highest top speeds recorded at Grand Prix events. Coming into 4, 5, and 6, again, very slow, very technical. It isn't there to improve the racing, but you don't get much of a don't get much of a rhythm through there. But second sector, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, you get some very fast action where you can make a lot of mistakes and you can get punished for it very quickly because there isn't much runoff. You go straight into a barrier. So you're really handling out your own risk. Sector 3, very twisty and turvy again. It's the stadium section.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really interesting because this is traditionally a very low grip circuit.
Yes.
And especially after, I think there may have been a recent patch to the game which reduced traction even more, which if that is the case, on one of the lowest grip circuits on the calendar, we could be in for a very interesting evening's action.
Yeah, definitely. This is going to first corner for both races will be very interesting to watch and fold out because this is one of the longest runs down into turn 1 from pole position that we have on the calendar. We'll get a lot of action through there, especially coming into turn 1 and out of turn 3 as well. We will have a lot of overtakes there and hopefully some more changes for the lead.
Definitely. We haven't seen too many fights for the lead in recent years, obviously in real life, and we saw it last week as well. Matty Mumu, if you ignore his blunder on the opening lap where he jumped the start and had to take that drive-through penalty, it was a pretty comfortable race for him. A little bit about the circuit though. First held in 1963, as said earlier. It's been on and off the F1 calendar throughout its history. Went from 63 to 1970, then missed out 16 years for a little spell in the late 80s, early 90s, from 86 to 92, and then has been a permanent fixture since 2015. I think it's going to be on the calendar for a little while longer. Last year, in real life, won by Max Verstappen, as every race seems to be at the moment. Took pole position as well. Obviously, we have got equal cars, so the Red Bull's not going to be quite as dominant as it is in real life. So hopefully some of the other cars can get involved. I know the Williams team have got a very good lineup with Matty Mumu and Joe, and then the likes of Red Bull, McLaren. They've got some pretty good drivers. We've got some new people in there as well, and I believe we're going to be having a fairly full lobby, but don't quote me on that. We'll get that confirmed shortly with our final lineup. As we are waiting to get qualifying underway, 18 is the number that we are being told at the moment, which could make things very interesting indeed. If you were to pick a favourite part of the track, I know you said earlier about the middle sector, that really fast flowing bit. The stadium section as well is it got rid of the Perotada, which was a very nice corner previously. But what would you say your favourite part of the track is?
I'd have to say it would have to be the stadium section. In real life, that place really does come alive. As we've seen through the past few years, the crowd there are absolutely amazing, and it is just such a delight to watch on television. But to actually drive itself, I would have to say Sector 2. The technical nature of those corners lend really well to differentiating between a great driver and somebody who is good. because again, it is very punishing. If you don't get those sections right, then you're in a barrier and your race is over. You've ruined your race from hitting the curb, and the curbs are very deadly there as well.
Absolutely. I was going to say similar. Those curves in that flowing section. If you put a wheel on the curb, you are like you said off in the barrier, or you're just going to get completely stuck on the curb. You're going to bottom out. You're going to go straight on. Not ideal. The stadium section obviously probably won't have the atmosphere as it does in real life when Checo Perez drives through it. I don't believe we've got any Mexicans flying the flag for their country today. I also think the first sector is actually pretty interesting. That the first chicane, there was that famous incident, I think is the best way to call it, between Verstappen and Vettel. I think it was 2016, where Verstappen kept going off through the grass, shooting off through the grass to keep position, and he had Daniel Ricciardo back in his heyday at Red Bull, throwing the dive bombs everywhere, trying to get past Vettel. That's probably my most vivid memory of this circuit. As you can see, we actually have 19 people.
Wow!
As we get ready to go, it's almost a full lobby. Which team doesn't have two drivers? Let's try and work this out. It's going to be quite difficult. Looking through, I can see 2 Red Bulls, I can see 2 McLarens, 2 Mercedes, 2 Ferraris, Alfa Romeo, Haas, Aston Martin, Alpine, I think it is, yeah. Only one Alpine, so only one blue car that's potentially going to blow up and have an engine failure in this race. But we do get ready for everyone to get underway for this 18-minute qualifying session to set the grid for the sprint. Obviously, if you weren't aware, the sprint format in this game is the same as it was in 2022. We don't have the updated sprint format, so no sprint shootout for you, just the standard sprint race. Oh no, sorry, you can't call it a race, can you? They don't like that. Sprint qualifying, the sprint, and then the actual main race to cap off this evening's action. Nobody on track at the moment. I know you're new here, so you may not know too much about the top guys. If you were to give me a prediction, I like to do this every time, as we see. I think it's a Ferrari first out on track. Right. If you were to give me a prediction for pole position, where would you lie?
I was watching a bit from last year, and from what I saw, Joe is very quick. Obviously, he's one of my guys, so I'm very biased in that. But Matti Mumu is looking absolutely dominant this year. This year and last year, he was on it every single race, coming in and just banging out some really consistent lap times. I'd have to say my money's on Matti Mumu to get pole here.
Yeah, it was an incredible performance in COTA last week. He was not that far off, as I told him in the interview afterwards. He wasn't that far off F1 esports pace, which is hugely impressive for a university student. We have got some cars coming out on track, though. I believe it's a Ferrari leading the way, and then we've got we've got the 2 McLarens out there, 2 Mercedes, Alfa Romeo's got both Ferraris out there as well, as everyone gets ready for their first flying laps. Track limits, we haven't spoken about those. They're going to be a big factor in this qualifying session as well, going through the twisty middle sector. Turns 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. Going to be a big challenge to keep the car within the track limits. On board with Wilson, who will be the first driver to set a flying lap, although the AlphaTauri behind is getting a little bit close. Do you want to have a run through of this first flying lap of the Mexican Grand Prix weekend with the Ferrari?
Okay, well, so we come down to the main straight, coming straight past the pit walls, and DRS wide open in right now, and that is using all of their deployments through to the first section and down into turn 1. Now, this track has got very low air density, and it'll be very, very, very hard to keep it on the rubber, keep it on the track as they come through into the second straight out of turn 3, barreling it down again with DRS straight down into turn 4, and the braking zone hard at 100 meters down into second gear, bringing it right round through past all the grandstands, and bringing it down into that double apex and straight through into sector 2. Now, one of the best parts of the track, you're going to see how it takes each one of these corners. Very consistent through here, just touching on that throttle. Don't want to give it too much, otherwise you'll be throwing the wheel off and you'll be ending your qualifying right there and then. Now, into turn 12, diving it straight down. Great mid-corner speed there. Straight into the stadium, rotating that car around. He looks like he's got it right on point, and coming up, bringing that through. yellow flag's been brought out, but it looks like he is unfazed by that, and that would be a
difficult to see lap time.
I was about to say, is he
quite blurry on our feed, but it looked like a pretty clean lap from the Ferrari.
That was a 1 minute 17.8.
Yeah, second down on the time from Jareki, who's at the top. It was interesting to see Wilson take that tight line coming out of the final corner. Could be a little bit difficult for traction because that's one of the main areas where you're really going to struggle to stop those rear wheels spinning up and pitching you into a barrier. Joe lowers the benchmark though. He is 3/10 clear of the Alfa Romeo at the moment. We'll wait for the likes of Matty Moomin, Geek, to see what their times are. GWS was pretty quick last week as well, as the Mercedes goes up into third place, 3/10 off the top. GWS in the second.
16.4 from Joe coming through. We've got the other sectors waving out as people trying to find a gap, and everyone is barreling it straight down into turn 1 at full pace. Now let's wait to see if we have any other fast people come through. We don't have an indication of any fast sectors, so we will be waiting on times to come up through. Matthew Moon putting an excellent performance there of a 1 minute 16.7 or 5. So I'm trying to read from my other monitor here. It's a bit blurry on our end.
Yeah, it's less than half a tenth between the two Williams at the top, and they're in a league of their own a little bit at the moment. Jareki the closest to them, just under 3/10 back. Geek down in 6/10 off the pace, although probably a little bit of a banker time, trying to make sure you get a competitive time in early, because like we said, it's very difficult to keep it within the track limits. 14 drivers with a time so far out of the 19, as we see. I think it was a Haas going very wide, going through, I believe that was turn 4. 2 seconds covering the 14 cars at the moment. We've got Fabio in the one and only Alpine there in the first sector, cutting into Cameron Searle, who, as you can see in the bottom right, his track map is bright red, and I think he's just dropped it as well. Yes, he has. I was going to say that he's invalidated the lap anyway. He's struggling to keep the car pointing in the right direction. Not a great start for the podium sitter from last time out. On the final corner with the Haas, looking a little bit wobbly, it has to be
Everyone
said.
coming in through the pits now, just waiting out the remainder of the session to chuck on a fresh set of softs and go out for one more bank of that. Everyone so far though, very good times on the board. Joe must be rather pleased with that. About 1 minute 16.5. He must be very pleased indeed. Matty Mumu as well, coming in just under half a tenth. And Jareki as well, just a bit further behind the field. Everyone else doing very well though, as we have the front.
Important though for Joe to get going off the bat quickly, because he had a disappointing start to the season in COTA. Not all of it was his fault in the end. Got involved in a bit of a tangle, Yes, with I believe it was Geek midway through the race. So this is an important one for him. Gets going quickly. He's on the pace of his teammates straight away, which he wasn't last week. He was a little bit down. Matty Moon was very much in a league of his own, but it is, as we probably expected, the two Williams leading the way, followed by Jareki, and then we've got Ice, Tom Hug in 5th, Geek Alpha, Zadie, GMT UFC, and then Assassin bringing up, or rounding out, I should say, the top 10. Wilson going for a second attempt, currently 11th, 1.3 seconds off the pace. It was a pretty decent first lap, maybe not time-wise, but it was pretty clean. He'll be hoping to find maybe half a second. I know that's quite a big ask, but he'll be looking to maybe slot himself in the gap between the AlphaTauri and the second McLaren in the lower end of the top 10. Cameron Searle, though, as we are talking about people making big improvements, his first lap was absolutely terrible. Yeah, jumps up into 3rd. He came 2nd last time out. Had a difficult qualifying session as Wilson now goes purple in the first sector. 3.5 improvement. The track looks like it's beginning to ramp up a little bit as the Ferrari gets out of shape ever so slightly coming through turn 5. But 3.5 up in the first sector alone. This could be a big improvement to catapult him towards potentially even the top 5.
I see how the second sector does, and it looks to be pretty solid so far. It's coming down just now, completing the second sector, and that is
half a second he's found so far.
Yep.
He got very close to track limits on the entry, something you've got to be careful of going into turn 12. We'll see how the lap shapes up. Currently 12th, as more drivers have set a time as he's been completing this lap. Where does he go? We're looking to match his teammate, probably up to the line, and he goes ahead of him.
Jumps
up
massive
into sixth place.
Massive improvements from Wilson there.
Just 0.4 off the benchmark pace set by Joe. And he'll be pretty pleased with that as a second flying lap. Gets him into a good position to hopefully start in and around that top 10 for the sprint.
We've got 3 drivers out so far without a time on the board. That would be the Aston Martin driver of Mid and the 2 Haas drivers of WeWoo and GSJW. Sorry there. All of the two drivers are out so far, looking to set a time on the board. Let's see where their pace is at the end of this. Now we have, who would this be? This would be just Matty Moon coming through to set a lap up as he comes around through turn 6 into turn 7.
It's been pretty good. It's actually Joe.
This might be Joe, yeah.
It's Joe.
That's Matty Movies down behind, yeah.
It's difficult when the 2 fastest drivers are in the same car. It can get a little bit confusing at times. He was half a tenth up in the first sector, found another tenth and a half to leave him 2 tenths up so far. We'll see how he goes through the stadium section, but this is looking good to lower the benchmark once again and put a little bit of a distance between himself and the rest of the field, like he did with his first flying lap. Round the final corner, neat and tidy from the provisional poleman. Up to the line he goes, and it is a 1:16.1, finds 3.5 tenths in the end. Very
mega
impressive.
Improvements from Joe there.
He's comfortably ahead of everyone else. GWS, you can see, invalidated his second attempt. He's back in the pits. The Aston Martin of Mids is at the bottom at the moment, 3.6 seconds down. I believe this is, or he's just completed a lap to go into make that 17th now, as we see an improvement from WeWoo, or first lap time from WeWoo, which is a name I can very much get behind. Sits just outside of the top 10.
I must say that Williams are looking very stable around this track, which you probably couldn't say for real life. But I mean, with Alex Albon's FP2 performance, FP1 performance yesterday, who knows really?
Yeah, and I think last time I checked, he was doing pretty well in FP3 also.
What's going on right now, yes.
Geek, with his second flying lap, only finds just under 2 tenths of a second to jump up into 6th. 3/4 of a second off Joe. It's Matty Mumu who we want to be looking at, though, because he is on a second flying lap. Needs to find 4 tenths of a second to get close to his teammate, and he's very close to finding that, but that is an Aston Martin in the way.
It's the Aston Martin. That is not what you want to be seeing, a Matty Mumu.
And that blows the race for pole wide open. Matty Mumu was 3.5 tenths up. Surely was going to jump ahead of his teammate, but his wheel's fallen off because he's pitched it in the back of a slow-moving Aston Martin into turn 12. Mids probably quite rightly picks up a 5-place grid penalty for that, but Matty Mumu is going to be starting at best 2nd place for this race.
And we could see more. We could see improvements from further down from the grid. As the other drivers are preparing, hopefully, to go out for one more banking lap here, as we see Geek come through into the stadium section.
I almost predicted that was going to happen in my head. I saw Matsumoto getting very close to the Aston Martin there, going, surely Mids is going to move out of the way. No, I think he was just trying to slow down and thinking Matsumoto would go round him. Instead, Matsumoto expected him to pull out of the way. He didn't, and he just ploughed into the back of him. His wheel fell off. No fault of Matsumoto, but it is an unfortunate way to end it.
There.
Yeah, maybe a bit of miscommunication in there. It happens, though. It's racing.
That's happened. That is racing for you.
He's going to have to put it behind him for the sprint and then the main race coming up. But like you said, with the track continuing to evolve and ramp up, it is very likely that time will be beaten. Moore Island is someone who probably won't be beating it down in 17th, but he is half a second up through the first couple of sectors. We'll see how the final corner is for him as he goes up to the line in his Alfa Romeo. What is it? And he finds a couple of places and 8 tenths of a second. Yeah, moves up into 15th. If this was a three-part qualifying, he would currently be in Q2. It is not, because we don't quite have all day for that. But at the moment, it is Joe comfortably out in front. Matty Mumu 4/10 back. And then next closest is Cameron Searle, 5.5 off the pole sitter.
Knocks over a bollard there. And another one as well.
Another one bites the dust for GMT as the McLaren takes a little bit of an untidy line through the stadium section, it has to be said. Down in 12th at the moment, only 0.3 off teammate Alpha in 9th. They'll be looking to consolidate their positions in the midfield. But as we get ready for the final runs, I think everyone is back in the pits. No, Cameron Searle will be the first to complete his final flying lap. 5.5 needed to be found for the AlphaTauri, who was driving for the Papaya McLaren team last week. We'll see as we come down into the first chicane how much time we can find in this first sector. He takes a nice line over the curves, doesn't hit those sausage curves too hard on the inside, and he keeps it within track limits. A bit of a tail snap going through turn 3. I wonder if that's going to cost him a little bit of time. We'll see the sector split as he comes up to it. He has found 1/10 of a second, probably needs to find a little bit more though in the final couple of sectors to get anywhere near Joe, but if he can carry it on, should be getting onto the front row. Swinging it nicely through turns 7, 8 and 9. Such a good section of corners, as you said earlier. We'll see how much time he's made up. It looked pretty clean through the middle sector. That double apex right-hander was pretty tidy. He's found even more time. He's actually purple in the middle sector, so this could actually be very close to our provisional pole sitter. We'll see as he goes through the stadium section now, up to the final corner. There's a little bit of traffic, a little bit of a tail wag through the penultimate corner there, but it doesn't seem to put him off too much. Up to the line with Cameron Searle. What can he do? It's second fastest.
If I was Joe right now, I'd be looking at that and thinking maybe Jarek could improve a little bit more, and maybe Jarek could be in a chance of getting pole here. So very rightly so, Joe going out for a second or third time to do another flying lap here.
Yeah, important. Alpha finds 0.3 of a second to jump up into 6th. Geek pushed down into 7th, as are the two Ferraris, who are very close together as well. Cameron Searle less than 0.5 away from Joe. He could have been on provisional pole. As yet, he's going to be probably at best second, because I doubt those tyres are going to be good for another flying lap. Everyone you can see piling out of the pits, though, as they get ready for their final flying laps. Traffic could be a deciding factor in this session. We're on board with 4th place Jarek. Got 6.5 to find, but only set one competitive flying lap earlier in the session. You can see the yellow flags being waved for all the slow cars getting out of the way. DRS open, foot flat to the floor as we go past 330 kilometers per hour, using a lot of the battery. You see how much it drains when you're in hot lap mode. Down into turn 1, nice line through turn 1, and a little bit untidy through 2, but he corrects it nicely and gets on the exit curve pretty nicely as well, and then going to straight line it into turns 4, 5 and 6. We'll see what the sector time is, and it is a 28.6. It's a 10th down though. Is this going to be the end for Jarek? Doesn't look like a brilliant lap so far. Round, it looked like he I actually thought he backed off there by the way he moved over. Mercedes of Ice moves up into 3rd there, ahead of Matamumu, who might start tumbling down the order as we get into the last minute or so of this qualifying session. More yellow flags being waved, can't quite see who it's for on the mini-map. Nobody getting in the way of Jarek so far. Wasn't also able to catch the sector split time, so it's just going to be a matter of time to see where the Alfa Romeo goes. Hopefully he's found a bit of time. Joe is the benchmark for him. What can Jarek do? It's been a pretty tidy 2nd and 3rd sector for him. Out of the final corner he comes up to the line. What is it going to be for Jarek? It's only a 21 flat. That is not going to be enough. I think he might be going again.
If he goes again, his tyres are going to be just that much more knocked down, and also his battery as well. He may not be in the shot for pole here, but we'll see how this one ramps out from now on.
2 cars in the pits, by the way. They're done, and more I forget what it is. More Island coming around the final corner just with enough time there to start his final flying lap. Assassin's found a 10.5. What can he do coming into the final couple of corners? Down in 14th, you'd expect Assassin to be a bit higher. Joe didn't actually get a final flying lap in, so he is done. Pole is on the cards for someone. Assassin only finds one place, though, up into 13th. Not too many cars finding a lot of
Assassin
time.
only improved up to 13th. That's not where. Oh wait.
Tom Hug finds time, finds a quarter of a second into the top 5. We're waiting for Geek. He's going to be the moment we want to look at. Alpha did go again, managed to find time in his second flying lap, 16.8. Stays, though, in 7th place. Geek, who we're looking at 4/10th improvement, it's not going to be enough for pole as Jareki jumps ahead of Matty Mumu into 4th. Here is Geek, round the final corner, he comes, goes on to pole position by 2/10 of a second. Found all the time in the final sector, and Geek is back, ladies and gentlemen, into the 1 minute 15.9s. Brilliant lap. Joe wasn't able to get that final lap in. I think he pitted. And yeah, the Williams cars, who were looking so dominant at one stage, now only 2nd and 6th. Moore Island is going to be the final driver to set a time, but I don't think he's going to be troubling the guys at the top of the timing charts. And it will be Geek, who has had a difficult couple of races on in this season and at the end of last season as well. But he's back on pole position, and that is what you love to see.
Excellent work from Geek there, keeping it nice and tidy and coming up 2/10 ahead of Joe there. If I was Joe, I'd be looking at keeping it clean into turn 1 into the sprint race to try to get pole for the Grand Prix.
Excellent lap, excellent qualifying session. We didn't know who was going to take pole right until the very end. We thought that Joe had it. He didn't get that final lap in, and in the end, it cost him quite a lot because he is only starting 2nd. We hopefully will try and get the grid rundown for you. But in the meantime, as we wait for the sprint race to begin, we're going to have a little talk about an organisation that here at the BUSR we're very proud to be partnered with, and that is Special Effect. And now we're going to give you a little short clip showing how they help people in the gaming industry.
Nobody likes being left out. That's why Special Effect are helping people with physical disabilities to play video games. But this isn't just about having fun. The gaming setups we create are personalised, so people can play to the very best of their abilities. And that opens the door to inclusion and independence, confidence and creativity. Help us level the playing field and create more magical gaming moments. Because it's everyone's turn to play.
A fantastic organisation, I think you can agree, and here at BUSR we are very proud to be partnered with Special Effect. Back to the racing action though, as we get ready for the sprint to kick off in a few seconds' time. Strategy probably going to be a little bit irrelevant. I would expect everyone to go on the medium compound tyres for this race. We're just waiting to get a final grid rundown so we can analyse that, see if anyone's out of position. Matty Mumu ending up only 6th in that, with Joe 2nd. What are your thoughts on the qualifying session though?
That was a very good qualifying session with honestly have no idea who was going to take pole until the very last moment. Joe probably very disappointed with the fact that he couldn't get one last lap in there. He probably had that extra 2-3 in. Same with Cameron as well. They all performed very well, and I must admit it was a very close qualifying session right up until the end.
Yeah, and we can see the final rundown of the order. It was Geek who took pole in the end by nearly a quarter of a second, 2/10 ahead of Joe. Cameron Searle was inside that 3/10 gap as well for AlphaTauri, starting from 3rd. Ice in the Mercedes from 4th, and Jareki completing the top 5. Matty Mumu unable to get multiple laps in because he came a cropper with the Aston Martin. BUSR and Wilson for the 2 Ferrari cars, although I think it was Tom Hug that was in the 2nd Ferrari. 7th and 8th on the grid. Alpha the 1st McLaren in 9th, and then Aria rounding out the top 10 for Haas in 10th. 80 in 11th ahead of CB, the 2nd McLaren in 12th. Assassin down in 13th. Probably expect him to be a little bit higher. BBYI AG, I think that is going to be in 14th, 2nd Red Bull car. Then it was GWS in 15th. We are getting ready to go though for the sprint race. It is lights out And we are underway. Good start from Geek on the left-hand side of the grid. Joe looked to get a little bit of a slow getaway, but he's going to try and duck down into the slipstream and take Joe. Try and get past Geek on the run down into turn 1. You can see pulling out to the right-hand side. Is he going to get the lead back? It's actually Cameron Searle in the Alpha Tauri who's committed down the inside. Surely there's contact. There wasn't. And Cameron Searle getting up ahead of the Williams of Joe. Carnage behind. I think it's Alpha going backwards. Matty Mumu getting stuck in the midfield as well. Joe goes off through turns 2 and 3. He's losing places, and we've got a Haas backwards. It's GWS, or GSJW, sorry, at the back of the pack, losing places. Joe continuing to drop through the field on the medium tyres. You can see the Mercedes of Ice on the soft compact tyre. We've got another car off. I think it is Ice in the Mercedes. Absolute carnage as we've got another car round in the background. I think that might be the other Mercedes of Assassin. Terrible start for them. Alpha's picked up a penalty as well, but it's Geek streaking away out in front.
Yeah, he's putting away massively. The Mercedes had a terrible start there. Assassin dropping right down the order. But Geek putting in already a second on this first lap here as they come through into the stadium section of Sector 3, with Geek still bringing out almost a second up ahead, with Joe trailing just behind Cameron Searle as we see through to the main straight.
We really do have quite a mix of tyre compound choices. Geek in the lead on the soft tyres, 1.1 seconds clear of Cameron Searle on the mediums, Joe on the mediums as well as Jaraki. Alpha made a brilliant start from 9th up into 5th, but he has got a time penalty hanging over his head. Matty Mumu 6th, Ice trying to recover from getting caught up in contact early on. He's down in 7th, Wilson 8th as they battle their way down into turn 1. 80 in 9th, and then Wee Woo in the second Haas in 10th. Going around the outside trying to defend his position is Wilson, side by side with Ice. Can the Mercedes finally get the job done and move up into 7th place? Yes, he can. Takes that position nicely, and now Wilson going to be under attack once again from the Alpha Tauri of 80 behind. It could be 2 places lost in the space of half a lap for the Ferrari car. Takes a little bit too much curb on the inside. Absolutely easy pickings for the Alpha Tauri up into 8th, but can Wilson fight back into the triple right-hander, the double right-hander, sorry. No, has to sit behind for now.
Cameron Geek again leading massively through this stint. However, his soft tyres will degrade a lot quicker, and Cameron Searle and Joe will probably have a lot better run out into the later stages of this sprint race, as Wilson gets a 3-second time penalty as well.
Yeah, first track limits penalty of the evening. I'm expecting to see quite a few more of those. Gap out in front is 2.1 seconds. Joe only half a second back at the moment from Cameron Searle, who seems to be struggling to keep up the pace. And I wonder if the Williams is going to use the slipstream and potentially some ERS to fly past Cameron Searle into turn 1. And yes, you can see him pulling out over to the right. This should be the move to get back up into second place. And as Joe takes the Alpha Tauri and reclaims his starting position.
Bringing it nicely through into turn 3 as Cameron Searle just pops straight back behind Joe, preparing himself for what might be another run. But Joe with DRS through, as the only DRS detection point is just before turn 1, coming through and now down into turn 6, the double apex. Very clean from both of them, but Cameron Searle just inching behind, not leaving a single millimeter down on the track limits.
Yeah, it's interesting. As Cameron Searle goes very wide there, I wonder if he's had a problem. It must be some kind of wheel issue maybe, because he's gone straight on, and that is a very strange thing to have happened. He's falling through the field, and his third place on the grid that was second for a brief period of time has fallen out of the window now because he's down in 16th. Assassin, I think, has been involved in another bit of contact as he's ghosted. But his Geek now with Joe behind by 2.5 seconds. Alpha, who started 9th, it has to be said, on the soft compound tyres. He does have a 5-second penalty. Up into 3rd place ahead of Jaraki. Matty Mumu's made slow progress, it has to be said, but we do have a safety car. I'm not sure what that was for. It must have been for what happened to Cameron Searle, and I think something's happened to Ice and Zadie as well. No, we've got cars in the pits. Cars in the pits early on. It is the Alpha Tauri and the Mercedes coming in for a new set of boots. I wonder if there was a bit of damage and a bit of contact for them, but that was very strange to see what happened to Cameron Searle there.
Yeah, it's probably, as you said, a wheel issue as well, and Assassin looked like he got a bit flustered by it and lost the front wing. That might be the reason why we have a safety car, because we saw a front wing just broken off a little bit there. And yeah, that's if they can rejoin the pack before the safety car comes out, they might be in a pretty good shot. But is that the Camera Soul and Assassin are both coming down through into turn 1 right now as the safety car comes through into the mid part of sector 2.
Yeah, and what the safety car does do is it gives us a chance to catch our breath, especially in a short race like this where there is so much jostling for position, so much action going on. Geek maintained his lead off the line. It was a brilliant start, using the advantage of the soft compound tyres off the line to fly away into the distance. Joe getting back up into second place, and then it is Alpha in the McLaren, made up 6 places, benefited quite a lot from other people's individual escapades, let's say, throughout the race, but he's done a really good job to get up into third. Jareki up 1 into fourth, Matty Mumu into fifth, Wilson the only other driver with a penalty so far in sixth. Then comes Wee Woo for Haas in seventh, GMT UFC in the second. McLaren made up 4 places into 8th. GWS has made up 6 places into 9th, and Moore Island also picking up 6 places into 10th. Difficult start for the likes of Tom Hug, down 4. Zadie and Ice we saw in the pits. Cameron Searle having his own incident that was a little bit confusing for us. And then Assassin down at the bottom of the timing pages in 19th, losing 6 places. I think getting caught up in a number of incidents across the first 3 or 4 laps. Exciting stuff.
Very much. This safety car works very well into the hands of the people that have decided to run soft, probably gambling on the fact that there will be a safety car at some point during the sprint race, and trying to preserve those tyres right into the latter stages of this sprint race, hoping that maybe they'd be able to keep pace up with the medium runners, maybe even have a few more laps on them than they'd like. And it looks like Cameron and Assassin are just about caught up to the pack of the safety car, as hopefully it should be ending very soon.
Yeah, typically the safety car comes in once everyone has caught up to the snake that has formed behind it, so I'd expect it to come in at the end of this lap, but we'll have to wait and see. Going back to what you said about the soft runners, it definitely does benefit them because the tyre is going to be lower. I actually don't think Joe would mind this one bit because it's brought him right back into contention with Geek. He was nearly 3 seconds behind at one point. It's brought him right under the rear wing of that Red Bull, and I wonder if he's going to try and make the most of this opportunity and take him down into turn 1. Confirmed for us at the top there by Race Control. Thank you very much. Safety car in this lap, and Geek will back the pack up to try and get a gap and then get a jump on the cars behind for the restart.
Now it's just a matter of trying to match the revs as Geek and Joe come through, and trying to make sure that the tyres stay in a good temperature window here, because Geek will have the soft tyre advantage, and they'll be much grippier off the start here. And it looks like he is away. Joe getting a pretty good start, pretty good jump as well as he glides into that slipstream. Obviously, DRS not activated for quite a few number of laps here.
Using the slipstream nicely. Has a little look down into turn 1, but thinks better of it and sits behind for the time being. He's got to be careful of Alpha behind, though. Also on the soft compound tyres, as we see. Moore Island, brilliant move around the outside of GWS in the Aston Martin. Beautiful stuff as Tom Hug goes into the back of the Aston Martin. You had to check up a little bit to make sure it didn't make contact with the Alfa Romeo. They're still going at it side by side. Down up into turn 4. I said down up there. That's not the right word. And Moore Island completes that move. He's on the soft compound tyres compared to the mediums for the GWS. And as there's contact in front of them. It's Wee Woo and GMT in the McLaren getting caught up. We've got the Ferrari going a little bit wild as well of Tom Hug. There's loads of battling going on through the field. I think that was Wee Woo trying to defend from Zadie in the second Alpha Tauri, who's just ahead of Cameron Searle, but he's Geek with an 8/10 margin out in front. And I think Moore Island has come a cropper as well after his battles. Yeah, you can see him off in the runoff area there, going over the grass. Try and not rejoin us. That is a brilliant move from, I think, his Assassin getting past GSJW through there. Loads of action on the restart, as we saw at the race start, but it's 8/10 the margin, now 9/10 between our 2 race leaders.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate from Wee Woo there, just getting caught up a little bit, where he had a great qualifying session and great race start, but it looks like it all just came tumbling down when Zadie tries to defend just a little bit too hard there.
Going to have 4 wide here down into turn 1. I think it's the Alpes getting gobbled up by everyone. Look at Ice down the inside of Tom Hug trying to recover from that front wing damage he got. Pitted for a second set of soft tyres. He's made lightning quick progress through the field. Gets past Tom Hug in the Ferrari, and that is 8th place for him now. Looked like a bit of contact there from Wee Woo as Cameron Searle looks to recover as well up into 14th. The second Haas of GSJW, we catch that pretty nicely as he goes off the road. Out in front, it's actually Alpha putting a lot of pressure on Joe. The medium tyres still not working as well as the softs. He's dropped a second and a half. Joe's got to be careful here that the McLaren doesn't power past him. Tom Hug, second corner cutting penalty. Both Ferraris picking up penalties. They're going to tumble through the field. Alpha going around the outside of Joe. You don't normally see overtakes into that corner. He runs off the track, picks up a penalty for his troubles, trying to take it down the inside now of the stadium section, but Joe will have the inside for the final corner and should hold on for the time being. But the DRS is going to be so powerful that the McLaren should just breeze past the Williams, and they've got to be careful. Jaraki's there as well, as is Matimu, who's slowly creeping up behind them as well. Matimu could be second by the end of this race.
It's another penalty for Moore Island. Joe, Alpha getting a very good slipstream and tow from Joe there, just creeping up behind him. Obviously, with that 8-second penalty, Alpha is looking at much lower positions, down probably 6th or 7th at current standings.
Ice in the Mercedes continues to progress through the field up into 7th place now, getting the better of GWS in the Aston Martin. Joe did manage to hold on to 2nd place down into turn 1, but here's a train of 4 cars stuck behind the person that looked odds on to set pole, but it is now Geek, who stole it right at the last. It was a bit of a buzzer beater from the Red Bull driver. He's now pulled 3 seconds, and Joe under pressure from 3 cars, one of which is his teammate, who he definitely did not want to see in this race. Cameron Searle continues to make progress as well, up into 10th, gets back up into the top 10. Really good recovery from him. Tom Hug will be next on his hit list as we see positions flip-flopping in the midfield. We've got an Alpine and an AlphaTauri going side by side through the twisty middle sector. That is a really good move from AD if they've pulled that off. GMT got caught up with, I think it was Wee Woo in the Haas, losing positions, sat just behind them. We've got more battling though. Battling everywhere you look. This is not like the traditional Mexican Grand Prix. A little bit of wheel banging between the Aston Martin and the Ferrari, and down the inside goes Cameron Searle. Says, thank you very much. I'm going to pick up that place from you, as Tom Hug loses 2 places there.
Cameron just picking off pieces from everyone else's battles, just up and down the grid. Great recovery from him. As we see Matty Mumu getting past Alpha, he looks like he's just losing his pace a little bit now. And now Jareki coming through, just a 1.2 seconds behind Joe, trying to pick up some places up there. And Cameron Searle moving straight past Tom Hug there.
Yeah, Tom Hug gets back past GWS. Something must have happened to Alpha in the final sector there, because he's lost 2 places and he's got 8 seconds worth of penalties to jump on top of that. So I think he's going to drop outside of the top 10. Joe will not be pleased to see 2 typically faster drivers on his tail in Jareki and Matty Mumu. Matty Mumu will be fancying his chances very much at getting past his teammate in the remaining 4 laps of this race. Ice will be closing on them as well. Has had brilliant pace since coming in for that pit stop. Well, I can't quite remember what position he was on the restart. He might have been 16th, gained 10 places if that was the case, up into 6th place. Brilliant recovery drive from him. He's got 2 seconds to Wilson behind. Cameron Searle, similarly, beginning to bring his position up as he recovers from his very strange incident earlier in the race. Assassin, the other Mercedes, picks up a place on GMT, who's just fallen through the field since the restart after that contact with Wee Woo. But we begin lap 10, 2.7 seconds out in front. Jareki struggling for pace, and I think Matty Mumu might be about to pull past. Yes, he does. Matty Mumu, with the help of DRS, pulls into 3rd place. Is Alpha going to have a look around the inside as well? Not really defending it is Jareki. Alpha pulls his way past. Still side by side though. He's going to fight it very hard as the Alfa Romeo. Nearly pushed off the road by Alpha in the McLaren. DRS from the McLaren. He hasn't got the position 1 just yet. You can see the ERS light flashing at the back of the car. Will he go down the inside into turn 4? No, he doesn't. Sits behind Jareki for now. But Jareki nearly losing 2 places there.
Alpha giving Jareki almost no room there coming out of turns 2 and 3. Absolutely great racing from those 2, as we see from Cameron Searle there, flying past the Ferraris of Wilson and Tom Hug, trying to hunt down the Mercedes of Ice. Very good recovery from Ice as well, getting caught up in some rather unfortunate lap 1 collisions and a great recovery so far. Absolutely, as I was just about to say, absolutely penalty. Penalty list gets a 3-second time penalty.
We're almost 4 wide there, by the way. 4 wide into turn 12. You never see that. We could barely get 2 wide through there earlier in the race. I think that's a McLaren trying to go down the inside. The Red Bull gets caught up and has to check up behind the Mercedes of Assassin. GWS says thank you very much, picks up a couple of places there. All action stuff throughout the field. Geek 2.5 seconds clear, but these are the battles we want to watch. The lower reaches of the points. Alpha and Jareki continuing to battle as well. They've got Ice in the second Mercedes all over them as well, who's also picked up a penalty. Cameron Searle continuing to surge through the field as well. Look at them side by side again. Alpha gets the position. He thinks it's one and done, but no. Is the Alfa Romeo going to come back? Doesn't have DRS. Can he use the slipstream and a little bit of battery? No. Alpha gets that place 1. They've got to be careful though, because the Mercedes behind them is extremely quick.
But keeping up pace there with the Mercedes of Ice coming through into the second sector, and now as we see Assassin.
5-car battle in the middle sector? Yes, please. Thank you very much. GWS currently at the head of the train. Then it's Assassin, GMT, and then the Red Bull and the Haas at the tail of it. Assassin trying to recover from multiple adventures in qualifying and the race. He's going to look to try and make a move down into turn 12. This seems to be a very popular overtaking place for drivers. Unlike what we see in real life, sits behind, I think, is going to use the DRS to take 11th place very comfortably down into turn 1, but he's got to be careful of the McLaren behind. You can see the ERS light flashing at the back of that car. He's pushing very hard using a lot of his battery. Further forward, Matti Mumu all over the back of his teammate as Jareki gets past Alpha. They continue to swap places for what feels like the last 5 or 6 laps. Now Alpha's under pressure from the Mercedes of Ice. Not got the ideal run there and has to go off the road. Cameron Searle's catching them as well. This is another 4-car scrap we could see in the closing stages. We're on the last lap. Can Ice get the position? He switches to the inside. Dummies the McLaren. Does he get that position done? Absolutely beautiful stuff from Ice, who's gone from, I think it was 16th earlier, up into 5th. Is Alpha going to fight it back? No, he's got to be careful. Cameron Searle's going to commit down the inside of the double apex right-hander. This could be a brilliant move from the Alpha Tauri, who's recovered so well as well. He was down in 16th at one stage. Round the outside he goes. Alpha falling through the field. He's got a penalty for his troubles as well. Goes from 4th down into 7th in the space of half a lap.
Cameron Searle absolutely flying through the filter as Alpha's just barely trying to keep up pace now, as we see Matti Mumu coming through trying to battle his teammate Joe through into the stadium section and past turn 17, coming through right now with Matti Mumu with DRS, and that is the end of our sprint race with Geek, Joe and Matti Mumu rounding out the top 3, with Jareki and Cameron Searle just barely getting out the line there, with Ice coming in to 6th.
Completely in control out in front was Geek, led the race from start to finish. The 2 Williams cars come home in 2nd and 3rd. Jareki ending up in 4th ahead of Cameron Searle. Round of applause to Cameron Searle and Ice, who did an exceptional job coming back from their trials and tribulations earlier in the race. Alpha ended up 7th, less than a tenth of a second ahead of Wilson after penalties were applied. AD in 9th, and then Tom Hug rounding out our top 10. We saw that 5-car scrap behind them, with Assassin ending up getting ahead of GWS. GMT in the McLaren, Weewoo, BBY AG, Fabio Moreisland, GSJW, and we're going to see mids in the final Alpha Aston Martin. So many cars beginning with A, crossing the line to take 19th and last place, but a brilliant performance from Geek. He takes the sprint victory and will maintain his pole position for the 36-lap race that we are about to witness. That was one of the more chaotic BUSR races I've been a part of, and it was only 12 laps, so another 36 to go.
Always good to see that, and that's a very well-deserved driver of the day there from Ice. I would definitely have to put him and also Cameron up there with some of the best performances I have seen in sim racing. What are your thoughts on the state of the drivers right now, and how the race is going to pan out in just a couple of minutes' time?
Well, I think what was great to see is we saw a lot of very fair, clean, but hard racing, which is what we always like to see. People seem very similarly matched on pace, which was good to see as well. Big tyre delta between the soft and mediums, which seemed to level out performance a little bit. But yeah, Geek looked in complete control. The 2 Williams eventually ended up finishing probably where they should have done, although Joe was under pressure for a long time in that race, and Matti Mumu had a lot of work to do to recover from that qualifying mishap as well. Further down, though, we had so many good battles. I can't even remember some of them. Alpha and Jareki seem to be swapping places every 5 seconds, battling down into turn 1. And then even outside of the top 10, people fighting so hard for like P13. It's so good to watch. But we're getting ready to go for the 36-lap race. What do you think the strategies are going to be? Is it going to be mediums again or softs?
I think we'll be going straight from softs into mediums as per usual for these length of races through the F1 through F1 23. We might see somebody try absolutely destroy the soft tire straight away and go straight onto the hards, try and perform that undercut there. But to be honest, the tire degradation doesn't seem to be that bad. The softs were holding up very well against the mediums, as you saw there, with Geek holding off very, very well against Joe, despite the tire difference there in the later stages. Joe couldn't keep pace at the end, so I feel like we could see quite a soft set.
5 lights ahead of the drivers. Clutch is dropped, and we are underway for the main race. 36 laps ahead of us. Who is going to be the beneficiary of the strategy and what comes in the next 36 laps? Good start from our leading contenders, although Matti Mumu straight onto the back of his team. You can see Jareki pulling over to the right-hand side as well. The two leaders are side by side. Down into turn 1 we go. Can Joe take the lead from Geek, who's on the hard tyres? You predicted it, I believe, there. Battling away through turns 2 and 3. Joe's not giving a lot of space, almost pushes him off the road going through turn 3, but they held position for the time being. Still side by side, Joe gets past him into the lead of the race. Matimu is going to be next to try and get past a slow starting Red Bull. Can Geek hold the lead down into turn 4? No, he can't. Takes a little bit too much curve on the inside and has to slot into second place. Behind them, you can see the two Ferraris battling away with, I think that's a Mercedes. Assassin's made a really good start. Jareki all over the back of Matimu through the double apex right-hander. We've got a Alpine and Fabio committing down the inside of a Red Bull, but it's Joe into the lead, and that is exactly what he would have wanted to do, seeing Geek on the hard compound tyres.
That was very good from Joe there, just going straight down into turn 1, just cutting back into turn 2 and 3 and guessing the run out from Geek there. Geek just struggling a little bit with the hard compound tyres. As we see through now, as Masimumu is just creeping up the back of Geek there, coming down through into the main straight. I believe I saw Masimumu there on the hard compound tyres as well, so we could see quite a good mixture of strategies here, as Joe can probably pull away from the field and bring out a couple of tenths from the top 4 drivers here.
Absolutely love this. You can see all 3 tyre compounds pretty evenly split as well between all 19 drivers. This is going to be a strategic battle from start to finish, and we should see a lot of overtaking because of it. Matimu seems to have the pace over Geek at the moment, sat just under 0.3 of a second behind the pole sitter. Joe has managed to break the DRS in just 1 lap. Brilliant start for him, using the pace advantage of the medium compound tyres. This is the Red Bull of BBYY, too many letters involved in that, battling away with GSJW, the Haas car going off the road there, but managing to no, they don't keep it clean, and then GMT and the McLaren gets caught up behind them as well. I don't think there'll be any damage from that, but not the most clean of racing in the midfield. Ice, who had a brilliant recovery in the sprint race to get up into 5th, he is also in this train that sat behind Geek at the moment, who's struggling maybe to get temperature in his tyres with those hard tyres early on. They're not going to be at their best.
And now we have a virtual safety car 4. And who would that be in?
It's GSJW in the Haas who has stopped. No front
rather
wing.
Unfortunate there. It doesn't seem to be. Seems just to be a clip of the barrier there. As I said, it's very tricky down there, especially with tyres at the race start. It's going to be very cold tyres. You're going to be sliding around a lot, especially at this circuit where it is technically a street circuit, or semi-permanent race circuit. Where you have about as much grip as you would on an ice rink, most likely.
Yeah, and that is why the soft tyres can be extremely beneficial early on, which is why we saw people go for it off the start. A couple of guys in the pits, Wilson and Moore Island, using the virtual safety car to put on a new set of tyres. It'll be interesting to see what compound they've gone to. It looks like people are racing, but from what we can see, we're still under virtual safety car conditions. It's another set of soft tyres for Wilson, looking to get a massive undercut on the cars around him. Moore Island goes onto a set of hard compound tyres, and GSJW onto the mediums. Look at that. A strategic battle between all 3 tyre compounds. This could be an extremely exciting race.
The Moor Island and GSJW wanted to get rid of those soft tyres immediately, going straight onto the hards and medium compounds respectively, trying to get that undercut working. We're not too sure how that's going to pan out, despite the
whoa.
And that's Tom
That
Hunt
is...
with a...
It's a drive-through penalty. What I want to look at is the race leader. Sorry to cut in there, because Joe's got a penalty sign next to his name, and I wonder if he's picked up a drive-through penalty for speeding under the pit lane. Yes, he has. We saw this Williams teammate make a very serious blunder in the last race, jumping the start. Had to take a drive-through penalty. Almost cost him the race, but he was so much quicker than everyone else, he was able to pull it back. Joe's done the same thing, sped under the safety car, and he's got himself a drive-through penalty for his troubles. Meanwhile, just behind, you could see in the background there, Matty Mumu down the inside of Geek into turn 1. The Red Bull's going to fight it into turn 2, though, try and hold it around the outside, but Matty Mumu with the ideal line through there, gets past Geek, and our pole sitter has dropped from first down into third, and it could be a difficult couple of laps for him, because Jaraki is now on the back of him as well. It could be 2 places lost for Geek as we go down into turn 4. We've got another yellow flag. We've got contact in turns 1 and 2. Geek loses another place down into 4th. Jaraki gets through. We haven't got a safety car as the Alpine of Fabio gets going again. I think he made contact with one of the Red Bulls. Rejoins a little bit dangerously there. Wilson having to go off the track. We've seen another few cars come into the pits, but Geek losing places. This has not been the start he wanted.
Joe bringing out
all round this ice,
and that is well, ice, and we were being caught. We were just taking advantage of that, but that's ice and BBYY getting caught up just a little bit there into the S's of Sector 2.
Shows how easy it is to make mistakes, by the way. One of the fastest drivers dropping it through the middle sector. Like you said earlier, if you touch the curbs, you are pretty much gone. Matty Mu sets the fastest lap of the race there, but that is he's going to have to do another comeback. Geek on the back of Jaraki. He's looking to get third place back, by the way. Down the inside he goes. Bit of wheel banging and barging as they go through turns 1 and 2. Jaraki is not going to give this up. 2 guys on the hard compound tyres. Brilliantly defended by Jaraki. Holds on to third place. I wonder, though, if it's just a matter of time before Geek gets that position back. Moves to the left-hand side. Will he commit down the inside into turn 4? Yes, he does. Jaraki having to concede that position, or will he do the old switcheroo, as Crofty likes to say? Tries to go around the outside of 5, and now he's going to keep it on the left-hand side through the double apex corner of turn 6. Still side by side through the whole of the start of the middle sector, but in the end has to concede, and Geek is up into third place and has to try and recatch the 2 Williams cars in front of him.
Jaraki's got to just leave it there for a moment as they come through into the S's. Not an ideal place for overtaking, but turn 12 being a very nice place for overtaking for these drivers right now. As we come through, seeing ice come through to the start of the third DRS zone into turn 12.
A calamitous error, it has to be said, for the Mercedes driver. Has had such good pace as Joe pits to take that drive-through penalty. It'll be interesting to see where he comes out if he's in a whole host of traffic. I'm not sure what gap he's going to feed out into, but it is a pretty slow pit lane. You can see him there. It's one of the worst feelings as a driver on any kind of game, having to take a drive-through penalty. He's going to be way down the field. Comes out in what might be a nice little pocket of space, actually, if he can stay ahead of ice in the Mercedes, which it looks like he's going to manage to do. You can see the Mercedes in the background there. Joe comes out in 9th place, 4 seconds behind Weiwu and GWS, but he's got a lot of work to do now if he's going to get back on the podium.
Yeah, he's on a tyre offset and a different strategy, so it will be very interesting to see how much of a difference that strategy, Joe's strategy, can make against the likes of Matimumu and Geek, as they come through, as they do take quite a substantial lead from the rest of the field there, with them being set with the top 5 all leading out from 80 by 5.5 seconds there.
Yeah, big gap starting to form unless you're in the top 5 cars, like you said. That is a brilliant move from Moor Island, getting past GMT, who's really struggling at the moment, down in 17th in the second McLaren. Is he going to look to maybe have an audacious move up into turn 7? No, thinks better of it. Will sit behind for this lovely flowing section of corners. But yeah, it's not ideal for Joe. He has got the pace. The tyre offset is going to be interesting. I don't know how good the mediums are going to be compared to the hards at this stage. Interestingly, though, further forward, the gap out in front, now just 1.3 seconds between Matimumu and Geek. Under pressure is GWS, meanwhile, the Haas of Weiwu, who got caught up in an instant in the sprint race, now runs 7th. There's a big opportunity for some of these guys lower down to get some big points after some calamitous errors from some of the guys behind them. Weiwu pulls past the Aston Martin and up into 7th place. I can now set about the 2 AlphaTauris in front. Jaraki and Alpha are having a bit of a squabble in the middle sector, I believe, though. Trading places. Jaraki manages to hold on to that one for the time being. They're going to have to be careful of Cameron Sell behind them. Penalty-wise, we've got a 5-second penalty for Wilson and a 5-second penalty for Assassin. I'm not 100% sure what they're for. I can't remember seeing the race director note come up. It might have been for causing a collision under the VSC, potentially. I'm not too sure on that one.
I believe they were both quite early on in the race from track limits, where they were just. And as we see here, Geek, Alpha and Jaraki going straight for it. Geek is just looking for a place, coming through just behind Alpha.
Interesting battling, by the way. We said earlier about how clean the racing had been. That looked a little bit more like stock car driving through the final sector as they banged tyres multiple times. I think it's going to be 3 wide down into turn 1. Cameron Sell commits to the right-hand side. Alpha in the middle. Jaraki's going to lose 2 places there, having to give up on that one. Cameron Sell takes 2 for the price of 1, gets past Alpha and Jaraki, and can set about chasing Geek and Matti Mumu in front of him now. That was much better racing, but Alpha's not going to give this one up, I don't think, with the DRS, but Cameron Sell with the DRS as well. It should be fairly routine for the AlphaTauri driver to hold on to that final spot on the podium.
Excellent move there from Cameron Sell, just waiting and waiting just for the right moment, because the Sector 3 is not an ideal place to be overtaking, and he thought, well, let's just hang off for a little bit and use that ERS deployment down the main straight and through, and got 2 places for, well, for free pretty much. And now, as we see, is there somebody in the
safety car?
Safety car's out, yep.
I'm not totally sure what it's for. I saw Fabio had stopped through turns 2 and 3. I think he might have had a little bit of a whoopsie there, dropping it, and then the safety car's been pulled out. Well, we can see now he's got no front wing, so there must have been some kind of contact there. Zadie's picked up a penalty. That's the is it the 3rd drive-through penalty we've seen for speeding under the safety car? He was in such a good position as well in 6th, going to fall through the field because he's got to take that when the safety car comes in. And I hope that's not a 2nd drive-through penalty.
Zadie collecting a drive-through penalty, and previously there was also a 3-second penalty that just got handed out just before that as well. Zadie collecting quite a few penalties, like rather unfortunate for him.
So strategically wise, Matti Mumu and Alpha have stayed out. Geek, Cameron Sell, Jaraki, well, you can see all of them now, into the pits. Joe into the pits as well. This brings him right back into contention with the leaders. Matti Mumu stayed out. I'm not sure how smart a decision that's going to be, as Tom Hug gets a penalty for, well, what I've just seen on my screen is very interesting there. Tom Hug gets a penalty for some kind of collision, and then the Ferraris ghost inside each other in the pit box. With Ferrari's pit stop ability and strategies, I don't think they'll be able to service 2 cars at the same time, especially when they're inside each other. I do question a little. Well, I say I question Matti Mumu's strategic call here. He's elected to stay out. What do I know? He is close to F1 esports pace, so it's probably a 300 IQ play from him. But we'll have to wait and see.
Quite possibly. Alpha and Zadie also deciding to stay out for this as well, and also with GMT UFC. Moran obviously pitting on lap 2 on that on that VSC to get rid of those soft tyres straight away, same with GSJW. GMT UFC Moran making up some great positions there, while his assailants GSJW pitted under that VSC hasn't made up as many places as well. Not sure what the strategy call is from Alpha and Zadie, because they're both on the medium compound, same with Joe. Maybe they're seeing
Matti Mumu's in,
and he comes in for a pit stop now. Maybe he just got a bit caught out and couldn't go into the pits when he when the safety car was called out. Maybe he just passed it as the safety car was called.
It's possible, and if that's the case, he's been royally screwed over. But I think he would have, because Geek managed to get in, who was only about a second and a half behind at the time. If that's if he did have the opportunity to pit but chose not to, that is not the best bit of strategic thinking I've seen from Matti Mumu. I think he's put the soft tyres on because he's realised the blunder is made. No, he's put the medium tyres on. So I thought he was committing to the one stop, which would be the only reason for staying out, committing to the one stop strategy, whereas everyone else has flipped to the two stop. But now he finds himself down in 11th, and the two Williams cars, who at one stage, it feels like a long time ago, they were first and second. Joe, after his drive-through, is 7th. Matty Mumu, after either a strategic error or just getting very unlucky, if we can get that confirmed, maybe that would be ideal. He's down in 11th.
And I'll double check that for you right now. Let's see if once the safety car's got out where he was in that field. Because I've got a feeling that it was just a case that the safety car was called and he was nowhere to be found. Let's have a check right now.
It is quite the jumbled up order. If we can see people's position change from their grid slot, I think that will show quite how drastic we've seen things change. Alpha, who now leads this race, obviously stayed out under the safety car. He finds himself in first place on very old medium tyres. He's made up 6 places from his initial starting place. AD, who also stayed out, but does have a drive-through penalty hanging over his head, up 7. Geek, who pitted, is down a couple. Cameron Searle's been the big beneficiary. He's had really good pace, pulled off a lovely move on Jaraki and Alpha before the safety car was called out, up in 4th. The big movers, though, Wee Woo has found 8 places, driving through all the carnage to find himself in 6th. Moore Island's found 7 spots. GWS and GMT UFC have found 4 apiece. Ice, who's had a difficult race so far, difficult first third of the race, down 6. Wilson's dropped 5. Tom Huggard Assassin likewise as well. The order is extremely jumbled.
I just after reviewing that fixtures, I can confirm for you that yes, well, it seems that Matty Mumu was behind the pit entry line before the safety car was called, so he could have made a move into the pits and decided to wait and react. Probably not the smartest move there, but that's only my opinion, really. He has some, again, probably has some kind of like 3000 IQ play lined up, and he's going to pull off another double pit for sauce or something, since he's already used up his mandatory change of tyre compounds.
Well, hopefully if he does get on the podium later, we can ask him that question, because I'm very interested to see what he was thinking if that does prove to be the case. Or it could just be the biggest ego flex of all time, saying, I know I'm so much quicker than everyone else, I'll just pit a lap later and overtake you all again, which I would rate if that is the case, but I highly doubt it. But we are going to get ready to go again with the safety car in this lap, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot of overtaking, because Alpha and AD on very old medium tyres surely going to get gobbled up by a lot of people as Joe and GWS swap places unintentionally in the midfield, as Alpha gets ready to back the pack up and then pounce and try and build as much of a gap as possible.
AD here still with that trophy penalty, just waiting for Alpha to set off here, and it looks like he is gone.
Has committed, round the final corner he goes.
Very good reaction from AD there, just keeping just right behind him, and Geek as well putting alongside and then into turn 1. Just even before the braking zone, getting massive amounts of ground here, already into first place, up from 3rd. Great restart from Geek.
Wow, I assume that is a very typical dumping of the battery, because he's managed to fly past 2 cars straight away. 3 wide behind them, though. GMT UFC under pressure. Matamumu trying to make up as many places as possible. They're almost 4 wide as they come up towards turn 4. It's Ice and Matamumu side by side at the moment. There's nearly contact. Matamumu goes straight around the outside of Moore Island to move up into 9th place. Brilliant from him. Cameron Searle getting past Alpha as well. Him and AD falling through the field on those old medium tyres. Alfa Romeo of Moore Island going off the road there. But Geek straight up into the lead. Brilliant stuff from him. Cameron Searle has got through as well, though.
That's a Wilson. Wilson with a 3-second time penalty there, probably again for track limit warnings as well, as we now see Matty Moon coming through, just trying to carve his way through the field, just looking behind, and with Joe barely scraping behind AD there, just making that move work. And that's another safety car out, and that would be GFW is out of this race.
Wow.
Very unfortunate timing for them. Maybe a disconnect. I'm not sure what happened there. That is
Alpha
very unlucky.
This has not helped Alpha one bit. Coming into the pits to put on a new set of tyres. Surely you've got to go hard to the end. I think that's the only viable strategy at this point. And you can see there the white branded tyres. Yeah. So the strategic decision not working out there. AD has stayed out. This is his race was already a little bit screwed with the drive-through penalty. Wee is up into 4th place, by the way. I'm loving that. Joe finds, I think he was 7th on the restart, up into 5th. Sorry, his teammate Matti Mumu making up 3 places into 8th, and a nice little battle there with Ice. Moore Island, who was running in 11th, I believe it was, when Matti Mumu got past, is now down in 17th. I wonder if he may have made contact with GSJW, which is why the Haas was potentially pitched into a barrier and is now out of the race.
That is very unfortunate there for GSJW, but I must. But the winners from that safety car restart would have to be Geek, Weewoo, Joe, and Matti Mumu, making up great progress there on the safety car restart of Geek going straight from 3rd to 1st, dumping that battery and using that split slipstream perfectly through into turn 1. As now we see here, just waiting for the crowd to get bunched up once again before we can get racing. 13 laps at 36, just about to come to 14.
It'll be interesting to see if he does the same strategy on the restart to defend his position. Cameron Searle would have seen exactly what Geek did, getting past both of those cars straight away and thinking, I fancy that as a strat. I'm going to try and do that as well to get the lead of this Grand Prix. I'd say there's maybe 5 cars that could probably win this race. You're looking at the top 3 and then the 2 Williams cars. I don't think Weewoo will have the pace. I will be happily proven wrong by the Haas driver, but the penalty hanging over his head is not going to be ideal. Aidey's going to drop to the back of the pack as well. So I think it is, at the moment, a 5-way scrap for the race win as we begin lap 14 under the safety car, which has come out for the 2nd time, along with the VSC, making it 3 safety car periods we've had to endure so far. But the racing that we have had under green flags has been very exciting.
Very much so. It feels a lot like almost a Singapore, where it is a safety car almost every other lap here. But yeah, the racing has been great. It's been clean, it's been fair. I mean, giving each other plenty of space, apart from a couple of mishaps, but you could probably label it as racing incidents, really. Aidey's still yet to serve that drive-through penalty. If I remember, I thought you had to serve those within 3 laps of receiving a drive-through, but I could be mistaken. The rules have changed since I last read up on them.
I think it is still 3 laps, but because of the safety car, and obviously you can't take it under safety car conditions, that's going to get pushed even further back, yeah. Not ideal for him.
No, not at all. It's and Wilson picking up 2 3-second time penalties there for track limits. Not looking so good there. Not as many track limit penalties as we had in Koto, I must admit, though, around about this time of the race. I was watching along from the sidelines as well.
Yeah, impressive stuff. But at the front, Geek is back in the pack up, and as we are going to get ready to go once again. Geek leading from Cameron Searle and Jericho. Weewoo, I think, is going to be under pressure fairly quickly from Joe. But as they back him up around the final corner, when is Geek going to go? It is now. Cameron Searle going to try and use the strategy that the Red Bull used on the previous safety car restart, maybe to catapult himself up into the lead, but Geek is going to be wise to it. You would imagine Cameron Searle using the slipstream, though. Look at how powerful it is. Pulls out to the right-hand side, and the AlphaTauri passes the sister car up into the lead of the Grand Prix. Jericho's going to put Geek under pressure as well. The slipstream effect incredibly strong as Matti Mumu picks up a place on GWS as well. But it's Cameron Searle who now leads. I think that's the 5th different race leader we've had in the first 15 laps here. Jericho 3rd ahead of Weewoo. Joe holding on to 5th at the moment. And then Aidey, who's got Matti Mumu probably getting past very shortly. And you can see in the back a shot right now.
Alpha just carving his way through the back of the field there, just trying to make sure that his tyres stay alive for when the front runners pit, seeing as he's probably waiting for that to come under. And that is BBYY and Moore Island both getting a bit tangled there and dropping right down to the back of the field. Very unfortunate there. I guess that must have been a bit of a tangle through the second sector.
Yeah, luckily neither driver ended up facing in the wrong direction, so we can continue without a third on full course safety car. Although we do have another yellow flag. Have I just jinxed it? Yes, I have. Oh my!
Oh dear!
It's Fabio in the Alpine that's come a cropper at turn 12. And that is the third safety car. Safety cars breed safety cars, but this is getting a little bit ridiculous. I mean, if we get safety cars all the way to the end of the race, 80 might be able to hold on to a 7th place, although they'll probably get some kind of 20-second post-time penalty. Safety car not exactly helping Wee Wee there, as everyone has to go past. But Cameron Searle, this is not what he would have been hoping for, because, like we've seen on the previous 2 restarts, the car in the lead gets gobbled up pretty quickly on the restart.
Everyone just crawling their way around through turn 6, as we see from, and that's just BBYY just coming around the back, right down at the back, around by turn 1. Quite fortunate for him, because obviously that collision saw him go straight off the track, and yeah, it's like, so that little collision there has been nullified straight away by the safety car. Very unfortunate from Fabio retiring there just by sector 3. Not sure what happened there.
Yeah, and as GSJW calls it quits and leaves the session, this is gonna maybe put everyone onto the same strategy. I know we've still got a split between medium and hard compound tyres, but I would expect everyone, as Cameron Searle is into the pits. Interesting. Same with the second AlphaTauri. That might not be the smartest decision in the world, as I think they're going to have to queue. I wonder what tyres he's put on. I can't quite see it from this angle. We should get a better look here as he comes past. It is a second set of medium tyres. That's an interesting call. He's going to be in a lot of traffic and have a lot of overtaking to do. Is he going to try and go to the end on those tyres? It'll be bold. Did he pick up damage maybe under the safety car? Who knows?
Surely, though, Cameron started on a set of mediums, so he's got to pit again for a set of softs right by to the end. I'm not sure how well that's going to work out when the field is this tightly bunched up. You can't really put out the gaps needed to cover off a pit stop. So surely here we're going to see some rather interesting action from Cameron Searle and AD as well, who also pitted under that safety car.
Yeah, and I don't know how many safety cars we've actually got left, because we've had 3 full course cautions plus the virtual safety car. I feel like 5 might be the maximum number you can get in a race before you just get no more safety cars. So this might be the penultimate one we get. I could be incorrect on that one, but I believe that's what it is. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens. Everyone pretty much on the same age tyres. Most drivers on the hards, a few on the mediums. Our top 3 in particular. Wee Woo up into 3rd now. Potential podium for him and the Haas team. But yeah, I'm still slightly shocked by that Cameron Searle strategic call. If that's, I don't know what that could possibly be. I think he's made 2 stops so far, because he pitted under the very first safety car of the race, and you can see there 2 stops. A few other drivers with 2 stops as well. Wilson's actually made 2 stops, running in 8th at the moment, ahead of Assassin and Tom Hug, the other Ferrari. Then come the 2 McLarens. Alpha looking to recover from his poor strategic call, sat in 11th right now. BBYY has actually made 3 stops at the back of the pack, has been involved in a couple of scrapes throughout the first 50% of this race. It's hard to believe we're only halfway through the race so far. There's been so much action despite all the safety car periods, but it is Geek from Jaraki, Wee Woo, the 2 Williams, Ice, GWS, Wilson Assassin, and Tom Hug. Your top 10 at the halfway stage. Hopefully the safety car will be in this lap, although the Red Bull at the back hasn't actually caught the snake yet, so I think it may stay out for one more lap. But Geek's going to get another go at trying to defend from the cars behind, who are probably going to use his tactic once again, because it's proved to be very successful.
Seems to be that BYY is just creeping up on the back of that pack, so hopefully it will be ending very soon. All of their batteries will be...
That is late.
Oh, Wow. Okay. Well, anyway, so racing underway in just a moment. Here's Geek setting the pace coming out from turn 17. Just crawling his way. And now he is gone. And Jericho gets a very good start as well. Just pulling up behind him. But all of the field have got to be using as much of that battery as possible. But the slipstream effects being absolutely mental down this first straight, especially during this restarts. Almost two abreast through and just barely holding a wee. We were just barely making it work through turn 1 and 2 and just having to concede that place to Jericho right there.
Attack's going to turn to defense for him. Yeah, attack to defense from him. Let's go up the inside.
That. He's just making his way through. We were just trying to find whatever he can left. Matty Mumu also picks up that place as well, coming in through to turn 6 and down the very short straight into the fast S's of Sector 2.
Yeah, I think it was... he tried to go around the outside of Jericho, but that just put him straight into the eye of the two Williams cars behind, who were not going to pass up an opportunity to get past the Haas driver. We were starting to fall through the field. He's got Ice, who's recovered really nicely from his escapades, like we saw in the sprint, up into 6th place now, looking to get into the top 5. There's an AlphaTauri going wide. It's Cameron Searle getting stuck in the midfield with Moore Ryan. Big lockup from someone in that pack. I'm not sure who it was. Just behind the two McLaren cars, still side by side, almost contact as they go through the penultimate and then final corner. But I think the AlphaTauri has got that place one and done, and recovering from that pit stop under the safety car, takes 13th place. You can see everyone moving over to the right hand side trying to break the toe. Weewood drops another place behind the Mercedes of Ice down into 6th. Not been a good restart for him. Is he going to commit back around the outside? It's actually the two Williams cars that we need to be looking at, because Matty Mui's got past Joe, and that is completely out of the blue.
It must have been from very far back there, down from into turn 1, just dive bombing his way past Joe there, as Joe's just trying to recover what he can from that now, as he is now 4/10 away from Atamumi. Tom Hug picking up a 3-second time penalty there. It looks like from track limits again, and is that ADIC just crawling down from the main straight as well? As now we see Tom Hug just trying to just get past Cameron Searle there, but Cameron's putting up a very good fight of his own, just inching him away. But Tom's got to concede that, otherwise they're going to be up and very messy through those S's.
Yeah, a little bit of argy-bargy going through the S's there. Cameron Searle picks up another place, though, getting past Alpha. You could just see them in the back of shot there. Cameron Searle going around the outside into the stadium section. Got that place done really nicely and up into the top 10 now as we see somebody into the pits. I believe that's the Haas of Weewoo, who lost a load of places on the restart and is now into the pits. Not ideal for him. Out in front, it's 2.1 seconds the gap, but Matty Mumu is passing Jericho. Down into turn 1 he goes on the medium compound tyres and is up into 2nd place. Joe will be next to try and attack the Alfa Romeo, but it is Matty Mumu using the pace of those medium tyres. Joe, by the way, is on the hard tyres, so that will explain maybe the pace deficit at this stage. I'd be surprised if Matty Mumu goes to the end with what would probably be about 25 laps on a set of medium tyres. Wilson losing places. Assassin is now losing places as well. There's a massive scrap going on in the midfield. Cameron Searle's up in 6th. I'm not sure what's going on. Look at this. There's about 8 cars side by side through turns 4, 5 and 6. It's Cameron Searle has come out on top. Alpha's up into 7th place, and the Aston Martin's round. The Mercedes is off the road in the background as well. It's absolute carnage in the midfield here. Well, that was wow. That's more cars going through one corner than I've ever seen on any F1 game. That was absolutely crazy.
Wow, that I've never seen before. I was surprised that was only just the yellow flag there, I must admit. It looked like there was going to be a lot more there. As Mids also does take a 3-second time penalty for what looked like quite a big shot there.
Disconnected, by the way.
Oh, that is not what he wants right now, as Joe's just crawling his way past Jericho and now to the ghost of Matty Mumu. Very unfortunate there for him, probably just a bit of internet issues there, as Joe's very happy, I would imagine, with that, going from 4th straight up to 2nd.
Yeah, all of Joe's Christmases have come at once there. Matamu rejoins, but he's found that he's lost 2 places in that little disconnect period he had. GMT has been in the wars a little bit in this race as well, was down in last at one point, now up in 9th place, getting past Wilson in the second McLaren. You can see all those penalties for the guys in the second half of the field for corner cutting infringements. Matimumu still hasn't taken control of his car. He's losing a lot of time. This might cost him the race with 14 laps to go. Joe's going to try and chase after Geek in front. He's making up a lot of time on Geek, actually. That's gone down from maybe 3 seconds to 1.5 seconds in the space of one sector. So I think Geek may have made some kind of mistake there. Matimumu does have control over his vehicle once again and can chase after the cars, but he's lost about 3 seconds of race time there.
We're keeping an eye on that gap between Jericho and Matimumu there, but Joe looks like he's fired up those hard tyres right into the correct window there, as Geek is trying to maintain that position there at the top of the field. But it looks like Matimumu might have the pace advantage over Jericho as well here. Well, despite the fact that Jericho does have DRS in his hands, it looks like he might try and make a move onto Joe at some point very soon. Maybe into turn 4 here.
Positions changing all the time. Cameron Sell up into the top 5 now. Maybe it was an absolute strategic masterclass. He obviously thought he could get through all the traffic much quicker than I gave him a prayer for. He's done really well, and he's not that far off the lead now. We saw Moore Island getting past Wilson down into turn 1 as well, the Alfa Romeo driver who has been in pretty much every position in this race so far. Currently resides in 10th, just ahead of the Ferrari of Wilson. Cameron Sell's done a brilliant job on those fresh medium tyres. He's made up all of those places. Going back to that point, I don't think I've ever seen 8 cars trying to go through one corner at once on lap 21 of a Grand Prix. I mean, amazing I'm amazed there weren't more incidents between them. Look at this train starting to form. Geeks managed to open the gap out to Joe once again, so that time is flip-flopping quite a bit. It's back up to nearly 2 seconds. Jericho and Matimumu sat in DRS range, as is Cameron Searle, who I think might be the quickest driver out there at the moment.
He is putting in some very good laps right now and closing those gaps, but so is Matimumu as well. He's closed up a 1.8 second lead up down to only just half a second. Absolutely amazing pace from both Matimumu and Cameron Searle there, trying to just keep up with Joe and Geek. But it looks like we've got another situation from Kota where Joe's leading a train of drivers all in DRS here, right up until the end. Maybe we might see a bit of a pile up into one of the harder braking zones with all 4 drivers trying to jostle for position there right at the end.
It would certainly be dramatic, wouldn't it? Cameron Searle looking very racy behind the second Williams of Matimumu. And I wonder who, out of these 3 drivers sat behind Joe, is going to make a move first. He's losing a lot of time now to Geek out in front, a gap over 2 seconds. And I wonder if Jericho's going to be given the hurry up a little bit by the 2 cars that are looking extremely quick behind him as well, and try and get past Joe as quickly as possible. I wouldn't be surprised to see him lose maybe 3 places down into turn 1 if he doesn't pull into the pits. But we've got a yellow flag. Car out of the race. It is GMT in the second McLaren.
That's a VSC.
Virtual safety car. That is the 5th safety car period we've had. I wonder, as Geeks into the pits, takes the opportunity to come in. Joe's in as well. Jericho, I think everyone's going to be coming in. Oh, they know Cameron Searle stays out, and suddenly it looks like he's on the wrong strategy. Takes the lead of the race. Matimumu in very close for Geek to try and get past. I'm not sure which Williams that was. It's Matimumu. I thought it was... No, he is ahead of Joe. I thought Joe might have got the jump on him there, but they put on the soft compound tyres and are on their way again. The virtual safety car has helped a lot of these guys, and it's completely changed the running order again. Cameron Searle now leads on his new-ish medium tyres, and it's Ice in second. Alpha's back up into 3rd ahead of Tom Hug. Moore Island 5th, just behind Tom Hug. Geek, Joe, Wilson, who didn't stop, Jericho and Matimumu have left themselves with a lot of work to do pitting on the virtual safety car, but on the brand new tyres, they should be able to make lightning quick progress through the field.
Cameron Searle looks like he's benefited massively from that safety car, because everyone from between Cameron Searle and Geek have all yet to pit, and as long as Cameron Searle can build a gap to cover that pit stop, he is more than okay to go on and potentially win this race here.
Yeah, he's in an interesting position as Wee Woo picks up a penalty.
Oh,
It was looking so good at one stage. Now with a second drive through, down in 15th, and that is going to be the end of his realistic chances of making maybe the top 10. We are underway once again. It's Cameron Sell, 2.5 seconds clear of Isat in front. Alpha, Tom Huggers. Wee Woo is now retired. Is that going to be another safety car? I'm not sure. I think we may have run out of them. But the Haas is going to get cleared. Oh, I think it might have been a manual retirement from the main menu.
We will see as we come through and Geek just trying to make something of the situation that he has now, battling against more and coming down through into turn one.
Look at Joe on the right hand side though. Joe's got past Geek.
Barely make it.
Really close to contact.
Racing here with Geek. And he's just gone through there. Excellent bits of racing there. There's Tomahawk just trying to stay clear of all of that
contact
as well.
Contact between them under braking. I think Geek turned in a little bit early, made contact with the front right of Joe's Williams, but he gets that place back. Really good racing between them in the first sector, swapping positions throughout. Joe, is he going to have a look down the inside into turn 7? No, that would have been very brave. He does have a little look, though, as they go through the corner, but it is Geek holding on there, all tucked up behind Tom Hug at the moment on 17-lap-old hard tyres. This is going to be Joe's best opportunity to try and get back past Geek as they make their way through the traffic to try and re-catch Cameron Surley. Goes down the inside into turn 12. Brilliant move, late on the brakes, gets it done, up into 5th place. Absolutely outstanding from Joe, who gets that place done and can now chase after Tom Hug.
Joe just found the tiniest of margins there just to get through Geek there. Amazing work again from Joe, as now he has to dispatch Alpha and Tom Hug now. As really we see now, well done. Joe just making his way through with DRS and full ERS deployment, most likely coming through into the first braking zone. Easy work there against Tom Hug. Tires, no surprise there at all.
Yeah, and Geek going to be straight past as well, you would imagine. Tom Hug picks up another penalty. That's 11 seconds worth of time penalties for him. He's going to go tumbling down the order when we cross the line to complete the 36 laps. Cameron Sell has the lead from Ice and Alpha, but there are very quick cars on soft tyres chasing them down, and it could be an absolute barnstormer of a finish as those fast guys, the two Williams, Geek and Jareki, make their way through. Jareki's got past Moore Island. Matimu is getting a little bit stuck at the moment in the midfield, not making the progress that some of his rivals are. This could cost him a podium finish because he's not making that progress he needs to. Jareki is the next one to get past.
Making his way through the field as Tomahawk is just settling in up against the soft runners of the front runners before the safety car. It's Matty Mumu again, also looking for that 7th place of Tom Hug coming through, and that's Joe just inching it behind with. Now we're back on with Matty just getting past Tommy there with DRS and through into the braking zone. Excellent work there again from those guys up ahead.
Joe and Geek both getting past Alpha. We've got a yellow flag. It's BBYY, who's had a really difficult race. He is out of it down in 13th. That's going to be our 5th retirement in 27 laps. And I wonder if there was a little bit of contact with the Aston Martin at the back of the pack. At the front, though, which is there's a lot of action going on. Matty Moo getting past Tom Hug, as we saw. Jareki is now next to try and get past Alpha, who's got 8 seconds worth of penalties as well. So we'll hope to not lose too much race time defending these positions. 3.2 seconds the gap between Cameron Searle and Ice. Joe is only 6 seconds off the lead as Wilson picks up another penalty for his troubles. Alpha, I think, is going to lose another 2 places with the DRS down into turn 1 because he's got the 2 other cars that are in this potential fight for the lead on the back of him, but they've lost 3 seconds being stuck behind the McLaren around this lap.
Cameron Searle making up absolutely nothing as Jareki just goes for the move there against... I can read that. But Cameron Searle not making up the gap that he would like against the front runners there as well. yet to pit as well. We'll have to pit for another set of tyres most likely, because he will not be able to make those tyres last until the end of this race.
Well, I actually think because he pitted under the very last safety car, he probably can go to the end on those medium tyres, which must be the strategy. The problem is Joe is catching him alarmingly quickly, now just under 5 seconds off the lead. Joe has caught ice, with Geek being towed along very nicely as well. Alpha getting passed by Jaraki and Matamu. We've got these 4 cars running 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, all catching our 2 leaders. And they're going to converge on each other as we come into the final few laps of this Grand Prix. It's been a really exciting one. Cameron Searle opening the gap out to ice to nearly 4 seconds, but Joe, I think, is going to use the DRS to get past the Mercedes down into turn 1.
And ice is just going to be slipping back through these much faster car series. He doesn't even need, and there's the DRS coming open right now, and through into turn 1 he goes with that DRS wide open, not even needing to brake any bit early for that overtake there.
Easy as you like for Joe. Geek will be the next one to try and get past the Mercedes. Behind them, though, these are the other 2 potential contenders, as Geek does get that move done with DRS up into 3rd. Matti Mumu has got past Jaraki. He's got 6 laps to try and catch the 4 cars in front. It's going to be a tall order for our championship leader after the opening round. It's going to be difficult for him. He's got to try and catch them very quickly, especially with the pace of the cars in front. Icy should get relatively soon, and you can see the gap now almost under 3 seconds. Joe and Geek are coming very quickly at Cameron Searle, and I think it's only going to be a matter of time before the AlphaTauri is going to have to concede the lead of this race. It was a valiant effort and a bold strategic call. It got him into P1 with the track position, but I think he's going to come up short in this race.
Definitely, yeah. He has held off very well though, and has pulled some very good gaps as well, and carving his way through the field under those rather bold pit stops under the safety car as well, just coming right up down at the back of the field, only to make his way up to roughly around 6th place, and then holding his own against everyone. And now, as we see now, Geek just trying to fight that back with Joe, just missing out there on that position. As they come through in and out of turn 3 right now, and maybe and as Geek gets a second helping of DRS down to try widen that gap even further to Joe. Matimubu has decreased a 3-second gap right down to sub 1 second now. Absolutely crazy work from the 2 drivers as well, of Matimubu and Jaraki, keeping up very good pace as well. Ice probably going to be tumbling down on the order, and a very respectable 6th finish that would be from Ice as well. Very well driven throughout the sprint race and this Grand Prix, I must admit.
Yeah, been in the wars quite a lot. Had that spin early on going through the S's, recovered really nicely with a bold strategy call, and should be finishing, like you said there, in 6th place. Joe, I think Joe and Geek might be working together here, potentially using the DRS to drag each other along. Jaraki picks up a penalty though, and that is going to be the end of his chances. Yeah, that's going to be his race over, and well, he might struggle to even beat Ice if the pace differential is not big enough to pull those 3 seconds. Matamu is going to make this move very easy down into turn 1. He is up into 4th place. He's got to chase after the cars in front. Joe sits behind Geek for now, being very handily towed along to the back of Cameron Searle. 5 laps to go as we start 32. It is anyone's game in the top 4, I would say now.
Very good performances from Matamu as normal. Jaraki just about making that work, with now him diving around down into turn 4 on the brakes on to Ice there. Great moves again across the field. As you said, it looks like Geek and Joe are trying to slingshot each other back and forth with DRS, trying to catch up to Cameron there, which would be some very good high level play right there, trying to make sure that they get within a earshot of Cameron, who has held up brilliantly so far. I was not expecting him to get this far in the first place, with only 3 laps remaining as they come through the last corner here.
I think Matti Mumu might be too far back at this stage. 3.5 seconds to make up to Joe. It's going to be very difficult. It depends how much time Cameron Searle and Geek Geek and Joe lose, trying to get past the AlphaTauri. Will Joe try and get this position back from Geek? Yes, he will. Have a look down the inside. Down into turn 1 he goes, up the inside. Geek's going to try and fight it around the outside. This isn't particularly smart of these two. You should be working together, trying to get into the lead. There's contact, though. Geek's almost rallying off the road on the runoff area. You can see the dust being kicked up. Ice has been disqualified for parking in a dangerous location. We saw him pick up a 3-second penalty while this battle was going on. I'm not quite sure what has gone on there, but that's the end of his race. We'll finish 19th and last.
And then disqualified. Wow.
I really don't know what's gone on there.
No, not at all.
He was in the pits. I don't know if he spun or something, but a very odd occurrence, and I don't blame him for leaving the session. I would try and get out of there as quickly as possible. But back to the front. This is the problem. Joe and Geek battled in the first sector. They haven't made any inroads on Cameron Searle in this lap. Cameron Searle will be hoping that these two battle for the rest of the race because it could win in the Grand Prix.
Cameron Searle must be smiling right now behind his wheel at the sight of those two fighting against each other, not helping their cause right now of trying to get into that top 3 battle. This could be a very interesting battle if they just left themselves a little bit more room and just weren't rallying a little bit more now. Look
how hard they're fighting.
Right fast.
Yeah, the big squeeze applied from Joe.
It feels a bit unnecessary.
It really does.
It feels a bit unnecessary at this stage. They need to work together and save some battery right for the end, because currently they have not made any progress on that gap. Still 1.4 seconds away from Cameron Searle, which is where it was 3 laps ago now.
Yeah, and there's the added factor, of course, that the soft tyres are going to be well past their best at this stage. Cameron Searle is on much older mediums, but they will, of course, hold up a lot better being a harder compound of tyre. Matti Mumu's not exactly made the progress on these top 3 either, still 3 seconds back, so I think it is going to be a 3-horse race. Geek has now taken it into his own hands. Joe looked a little bit slow, to be honest, once he got past Geek. Matti Mumu, Geek has gone, I'm going to chase him down instead then. He's almost dropped Joe out of DRS range. Inside 1 second is he of Cameron Searle? It's very close. He's now under 1 second. I think he might have just got the DRS as we come round through the stadium section. We'll see. No, he's 1.1 seconds now. Struggling under the dirt. Yeah, it's going to be really close. Joe picks up a 3-second penalty. That's going to be his fight for the win. Absolutely gone.
He needs to keep it. He needs to be away from Matti Mumu by 3 seconds, which he is right now, but he needs to keep that pace up, otherwise he will be dropping out of the podium positions here, as Geek is now had a good helping of DRS to try and keep himself in that fight with Cameron Searle. Great stuff right now, but I feel like they've kind of hindered each other's chances here by having that little scrap a bit early on, but it's half a second now down thanks to the help of DRS being very strong around this circuit right now.
At one stage, we had 5 drivers fighting out for victory. It's now going to be down to these 2 in the lead. Joe's become a bystander in all of this with his corner cutting penalty. He's got to try and be quick enough to make sure he doesn't lose the 3 seconds to his teammate behind. On the penultimate lap, it's going to be Cameron Searle versus Geek. Geek sitting very pretty, it has to be said, to slipstream past him down into turn 1 and take the lead of the race. On the final lap, Cameron Searle's held on so well, but I think he's going to be paying the price for those older tyres, and Geek should be flying past him any time now.
It's been an excellent race from start to finish, with now coming down to the very final lap. 3 drivers all fighting two drivers fighting within an earshot of the win. Obviously, with Joe, that 3-second penalty, very unfortunate for him. As now my stream has crashed.
Terrible exit out of the final corner from Geek. That might cost him the race win. There's wheel banging between him and Joe. Joe's trying to get this place back. This is not going to be helping his cause to try and stay 3 seconds ahead of Matti Mumu. Has that cost Geek the race maybe? He got a terrible exit out of the final corner. Just went so wide. Joe's going to commit down the inside here. This is going to completely scupper any hope that Geek thought he was going to have of getting past Cameron Searle and win the race. They both go off the track. This is personal now between these two. Joe shoves Geek all the way off the road and gets up into second place. I feel like the stewards may have a look at that. Is Geek going to send it down the inside into turn 4? No, he doesn't. Sits behind. We spoke earlier about how clean the racing was. That was less so. They got very argy-bargy. Joe's off the track again. I think all rules have just gone out the window at this stage. He's pushing for this third place to try and stay ahead of Matti Mumu. It's very close. You can see on the Delta he's under 3 seconds between the 2 Williams cars at the moment. Cameron Searle, though, because of the probably the lack of racing IQ from some of the people around him, is going to win this race. And I hope that doesn't sound like it's been gifted to him. Geek's going to go again to the inside. These two are racing each other incredibly hard. Geek's off the road, though. Geek off the road. It's crazy what's going on behind Cameron Searle. But with a... Well, we questioned it at the time. Turns out to be an absolutely brilliant strategy call, pitting under the final safety car. Cameron Searle wins the Mexican Grand Prix. Joe will cross the line in second, but will get relegated to fourth with his 3-second penalty. Wow, shades of Vettel versus Verstappen in 2016.
Wow.
We mentioned it at the start of the race. Cameron Searle's a race winner. Geek is second. Matty Mumu third. Those final 5 laps, absolutely incredible.
I have no words for that. And Alpha gets a 5-second penalty and Tom Hogg gets a 5-second unserved time penalty. All for unserved time penalties as well. With Cameron Searle, Geek, Matthew Mumu, Joe, Jareki, Alpha, Tom Hogg, More Island, Assassin, and it looks like it's going to be AD here rounding out. Or is it on the? Yeah, maybe if he keeps within, Wilson can keep into 10th place here. Maybe if AD closes up a second here, maybe he can just about put Wilson into the top 10 here. And it looks like not. Very unfortunate there. And that is Wilson rounding out the top 10. Very good performances from everyone, obviously, with that questionable driving at the end there, with Joe kind of throwing everything out of the window for the sake of trying to keep Matthew Mumu behind, 3 seconds behind him. And yeah.
Well, we spoke about it a little bit earlier. Maybe a little bit brainless stuff from Joe and Geek fighting so hard. It looked very personal as we got onto the final lap of the race. The gloves were well and truly off for both drivers, and it cost them both a shot of victory. Matty Mumu, the beneficiary, getting ahead of his teammate. He didn't have the pace, surprisingly, in that final stint to catch up. Cameron Searle, though, for AlphaTauri, is your winner of the Mexican Grand Prix. It was a bit of a Jenson Button Canada 2011 kind of race. I'm pretty sure he was in every position at one stage with some difficult strategy calls. A brilliant strategy call. He pitted under the safety car twice, lost a load of places. I think he overtook every car on the track probably at one point, and comes home to take a brilliant victory. Geek will not be happy. Geek will not be happy with second place. I very much look forward to talking to him when we get to the interview stage.
I would like to hear his opinions on that as well, to be honest. That was a very scrappy last couple of laps between Joe and Geek there, with Joe seeming like he was a bit fed up with how he was potentially feeling like he was held back there a little bit by Geek. But we will see just in a moment's time.
Yeah, it was great to watch, I have to say. And that's what you get with racing sometimes, when it does become a little bit less clean and a little bit more aggro involved. It can be really exciting to watch. In the end, I think both drivers will not be pleased with the outcome of that race. Matty Mumu jumping up into third. We'll get the final race results to you in a moment, before we do conclude this evening's full-on action. I need to drink so much water. We've been speaking so much for the last 2 hours or so. But yeah, absolutely crazy race. I look forward to hearing what people say, especially our race winner, our second place, and then Matty Mumu, who backs up his win in the opening round last time out with another podium too. Well, no, he won't be the championship leader, I don't think. I think he's going to lose the championship lead to Cameron Searle. Top 3 would be good for interviews, I would imagine, although I would also like to speak to Joe as well. If there's a chance we can do 4 interviews, that would be ideal. But if not, I think we go with the top 3 for our interviews, which will be coming once we get the race results to you as well. Out of 10, what do you rate that race? I think I know what
that was an absolutely incredible race to watch. With the scraps at the end and everything, I'd have to give that a solid out of 10. That was an excellent race to be commentating over for the first time.
Yeah, I kind of think I not jinxed it, but I said it might be a baptism of fire for you. I think you got the most action-packed BUSR race I have ever seen. So welcome to the team, I have to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, what a great race. Championship leader should be Cameron Searle with his first and a second compared to Matty Mumu's first and third. just didn't have the pace, which was surprising. It was just a very difficult evening for him. The problem in qualifying where he got taken out, then just didn't quite have the race pace at the end to catch the cars in front of him. But I think he got quite a good viewing of what happened between his teammate and Geek. So I look forward to seeing what we hear there. I think I can't remember how many race leaders we had. I think we had about 8 race leaders throughout that whole Grand Prix. We're going to look at the final running order, though, and it was Cameron Searle who, in the end, wins it by 3 seconds ahead of Geek. He picks up 103 points for that with the fastest lap as well. Perfect race for him, has to be said. Geek and Matimu rounding out the podium. Joe and Jaraki, who, like Matimu in the end, didn't quite have the pace to keep up with the top 4 in the end. Alpha was all over the place position-wise, ending up in 6th place. Did a really good job to come back from a difficult strategic error early on. Tom Hug in 7th ahead of Matthew Ashley in the Alfa Romeo. I'm trying to remember who that was. I think that might be... who was that? I can't remember the username. I do apologise for that. Assassin in 9th and Wilson 10th. The second Alfa Romeo there. AD finishing just outside the top 10 in 11th with GWS and Mids in 12th and 13th. Your retirements there at the bottom. It was, it was a difficult race for a lot of drivers down there.
Yeah, lots of probably a few disconnects. I'm not sure what happened to quite a few of them, but it seemed to be maybe a few disconnects and just some driver error and that kind of stuff. And looked like most of them are coming off that sector 2 of those S's, very deadly right there, and probably seeing a lot of people just probably losing a couple of tenths here and there from just general driver mistakes through those sectors through those S's, and. Yeah, it seems to be going all so well for quite a lot of them, especially Ice. A very good race there, and just right up until the end there, rather unfortunate end to that, must admit.
Yeah, I mean, neither of us have any idea what happened to him. I don't remember seeing him stopped on the track. I don't know if he just dropped it through the stadium section and then got done for stopping on the track. It was very weird. Ending up with a DNF rather than a disqualification, which is probably fair enough. We wait for our 4 interviewees, which is going to be very exciting to see what they all have to say about that. I think we'll bring, when we get there, I think we'll bring Matti Mumu in first, who had probably the least exciting race out of our leading quartet in the end. And it's, I mean, to say he had the least exciting race when he was leading it at one point, got caught up by a safety car made. I need to ask him about the strategy call under the safety car. There's just so many questions to ask. These interviews could be about half an hour long, which won't be ideal considering we've already been going for nearly 2 hours' time. We will wait for the interviewees to come in though. Results-wise, anyone else that we need to give a shout-out to? Tom Hug was up and down the field, ending up in 7th, like we said. He had a few challenges in and around the race as well. Wilson as well, ending up in 10th, we saw over the line. And yeah, interesting stuff. I think we might only be... It is quite late, obviously, and we have been going for quite a while. So... I wonder if we are going to get all 4 of them to come and have a word. We'll make it quick as well. But yeah, I think we go for Matti Mumu first after his interesting outing. Matti Mumu, the winner last time out. It wasn't to be this weekend, but an interesting race, some interesting strategy calls in there as well. How would you summarise it for us?
Chaos. But overall, let's start with qualifying, shall we?
I forgot that happened.
A funny incident, really, where I go purple in sector 2 and think I probably would have been on course to get provisional pole, but Mids didn't move off the racing line, and by that point it was too late for me to react, so that was qualifying done. The sprint was just, again, more of a mess on lap 1. Then we move on to the race, where it was actually going all right to start with. I was net P1. And then the safety car gets called out. I don't pit, but it turns out everyone behind me has. So I'm like, this is not going to be good if I stay out. So I join in, And everyone set the trend. I might as well follow it. So I end up 11th, I think, behind some people with drive-throughs. But I had new tyres, so it was just about overtaking everyone, trying to catch back up. And then the VSC near the end helped change onto the softs, otherwise we'd have had to pit in green flag conditions, and that pretty much saved my race. And up until the penultimate lap, I was pretty much settled for a P4, even after I disconnected. That was another thing that happened that I forgot about.
Oh, yeah.
That's another fun moment.
Just about to ask you that, yes. Do you think that may have hampered your race a little bit? Maybe you could have squeezed it out, even regardless of Joe's penalty there? Maybe squeezed out a P2 or something?
Yes, because before I disconnected, I was ahead of Joe and on better tyres. So when the VSC came out, I was behind him, but we both pit. So it meant that I was held up in the pit lane, whereas, I mean, I'll take a P3, but yeah, the disconnect probably had quite a significant impact on where I finished.
We saw a lot of jostling for position throughout the field. I think it was we had one point on one of the restarts where we cut to a shot and there were like 8 cars going through one corner at a time. Obviously, I'm not going to ask you about that. What I am going to ask you about, though, which is a bit of a controversial topic. You had a front row seat at the end to the fireworks between Joe and Geek. Do you have any opinion on that? What was going through your head while that was going on?
Well, I knew that Joe had a penalty, so in a way I wanted them to slow each other down, because before they did their fun little battle, I was like 2 tenths outside of it, but Joe had DRS, so I couldn't get within it. But then they started fighting, so it helped. I wasn't quite close enough, I gotta say, to get a proper good look at it, but they were taking some very wacky, crazy lines to defend their position. So yeah, we'll see what, if it does go to the stewards, they'll say about that.
Well, a solid performance, a podium in what was a tricky race for everyone involved. Losing the championship lead, but obviously a long way to go, and the pace was obviously there. So congratulations on your podium, and we will see you next week.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Now, I'm going to leave this one up to you because I think it's a very interesting one. Out of Joe and Geek, who would you like to talk to next? Because I think they're both going to be equally as interesting to hear their points of view.
I think I think we leave. I think we leave Joe for last.
Joe for last? Okay, so should we bring Geek in then?
Yeah.
Geek, the runner-up, first podium of the season. You were pretty much in every position inside the top 10 at one point during the race. An interesting end to the race as well. I'll ask you about that in a little bit. But how would you assess the evening's action as a whole?
Honestly, compared to last week, especially with Kota, night and day difference. Please excuse the hoarse voice. Incredibly dehydrated and tired. No, to be honest, Mexico is one of those ones where it feels less grippier than usual now. But just the action here today was just really good. Plus, I believe, the last Mexico GP we ran in BUSR, I went on to win it with a bit of luck. No, all in all, like, qualifying, I did not expect to put it on pole. I was consistently behind Matty, Joe, I believe even Cameron, with time trial times, and honestly, I haven't done any practice this week whatsoever. I've been too busy with uni. Sprint, again, I haven't practiced this week, so like I had no idea, if the soft would make it or if, play it safe with the medium. I knew I had to do something different because starting from pole and, you're just sprinting down into turn 1. It's an incredibly long straight. I don't know other people's setups, but the gamble on the softs paid off. They were dropping massively by the end of the race. Just all 4 tires were yellow, and it was really, really difficult to just keep it in a straight line. But I'm happy to actually come away with a sprint win rather than just nothing really. Race-wise, really under the first big safety car, I was honestly surprised Matty didn't box, and then just to see him actually pit when a lot of people are bunched up, that took me off guard. The VSCs, the Delta was 50-50. Like, some of it was just really weird, some of it was somewhat justified. I saw Cameron pit for softs and then almost immediately go for mediums, so I knew he could make it to the end. And to be honest, I was debating whether I should as well, but that final VSC just came out the last time, and I thought, you know what, bugger it, I need to do something different. Went for the softs. Honestly, the win was in my palm. It's just, I'm incredibly frustrated with how the end kicked off, really, and just really the dying labs, the actual standards were just not great, to be honest. All the action throughout the entire weekend was just great. It's just the final few laps just kind of soured it a tiny bit.
I must get your thoughts on, what are your thoughts on, how that was all played out? Because obviously it looked like that you and Joe were going to be trying to help each other out a little bit and trying to get closer to the front of Cameron there. But it all kind of went downhill after Joe got that penalty. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Honestly, I don't have a clue what he was thinking. As I say, after the last VSC, both him and myself boxed for softs. I managed to get past one lap. Sorry, not a lap car. They were for position, but they didn't box. I then got held up in the final corner by the car. No fault of their own or anything, but it was just they hadn't boxed. Their tyres weren't there. I was on fresh softs. It is what it is. But that slowed me down a bit. Joe, I believe, got past, but then from there on, I was more or less counter-steering every other corner because he had tapped my rear. Or, he's banged wheels for me. I'm trying to give him as much room as humanly possible, and he's either banged wheels or, in the case of the final lap, he fully pushed me off the track, which, I'm not pleased with that at all. Admittedly, I kind of screwed up on the very final going into Sector 3 itself, but gave him back the position on that. But just really frustrated because the win was there. And then just a snap, I don't know whether he tapped my rear going into the final lap or what, but just a snap just took it away. And then, the stream saw what happened.
Well, to end it on a more positive note, after COTA, it was a difficult race for you, but you didn't practice this week, and you were arguably the quickest guy out there, so that must give you a lot of confidence and a lot of hope for the coming races that you could be in a title fight.
Yeah, I don't want to jinx anything just yet, considering my title fight history. I got incredibly close winter last year. I thought, I was going to get off to a good start with spring as well, but that really went downhill incredibly quickly. Summer, essentially, that was P3, P3, P3. Yeah, at the end of the day, I wouldn't mind, fighting for a championship, even if I am in my third and final year of uni. Whether I'm going to do a Masters, I don't know. But at the end of the day, it is just a game, and my main focus right now is university work. Like I say, if I can go for it, I'll do my best and try and be as respectful on track as humanly possible. But if it's out of reach, hey, I'm just here for fun at the end of the day. So yeah.
Well, it was really nice to see you back up fighting for a win once again.
Tell me about it. The amount of P3s last season, honestly, ridiculous amount. I think all the way from Canada on. Sorry, I didn't get one in Canada, but Monaco onwards, just towards Brazil, non-stop P3. Even in the sprint in Japan.
Consistency is key. Consistency key.
True.
But
Definitely
very well
seems like
done
you've
this
been
weekend, though. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, just really happy to be back up there.
Definitely. Thank you.
No worries.
Well, a slightly disgruntled Geek after seeing the potential win fall away. I think we go to Joe next and then leave Cameron to the end.
Yeah.
Just to get his thoughts on what was a very exciting sprint and race. Joe, I mean, where do I start? Probably with I'll start with qualifying. It looked to be in the bag for most of it, and then Geek came out of nowhere right at the end to snatch it away.
Yeah, no, it was a good lap from him, to be fair. I kind of botched my last run, and I didn't really want the P1. I wanted P3, which I didn't get, which was sad. I accidentally did a good lap on first or second try, the one that got me a 1. I wanted to be third and get a nice slipstream into turn 1, but that didn't happen. So, but P2 was all right. I managed to tuck in and get a bit of slipstream, but Cameron Searle just drove better through that first series of corners, got the position on me, and he probably would have finished ahead of me if his wheel didn't disconnect. So, but I got lucky in the sprint then in that regard.
Yeah, I mean the sprint was fairly uneventful if you compare it to the main race. There were ups and downs, very much. How would you summarise it on a whole?
It was a bit of a mess, really. It was a bit all over the place. Yeah, I mean, I made a few mistakes like that. That 3 second really kind of ruined it all for me. Yeah, if I didn't get that 3 second, I would have finished P2. I'm not sure if one of my warnings is removable or if 2 are. If 2 are, then I'll be back up to P2, but I don't think they are, so that's kind of sad. So I think it's P4. Yeah, and also a bit of a mess with the VSC. That it took twice as long as it normally does to end. So I should have been fine on time, and then I just got to drive through, and that was silly as well.
Yeah, and there were battles throughout the race for you. On the final 5 laps, obviously we said this on stream, it was very entertaining to watch. Do you think the win was possible? Because you and Geek did seem to get slightly too involved in battling each other when it came down to it at the end.
Oh yeah, 100%. The softs were faster than Cameron Searle's mediums. We should have catched. I mean, we got into DRS, but the fight got so absolved that we just weren't able to bring it to him. Sadly, I was kind of trying to play the like help each other game. Like whenever he had DRS, I just kind of let him through, no battle. But for some reason, he was so determined to keep his position whenever I even got a whiff of DRS, which kind of lost us so much time to Cameron Searle and ruined any chance of either of us fighting for the P1. But I mean, Cameron drove an amazing race, coming back through the field twice after an unfortunate incident and stuff. So I mean, he deserves the win as well. He drove pretty well.
I mean, I must admit, it looked like you got a little bit angsty after you got caught wind of the 3 second time penalty. Saw a couple of scraps and being pushed off the track and everything. Do you think that maybe if you just let him by a little bit, maybe you could have just stayed behind Geek and try?
I'm not sure.
Try to catch up a little bit.
Whenever I overtook him, it was when I had DRS. So I was going to have it down the second straight anyway, and I was going to be faster anyway. It would have saved us both race time if I was if he just kind of allowed it through those first series of corners. Like I would go turn 1, leave space for turn 2 for him, and then by turn 3 I was getting cut off the track and had to kind of push him wide because otherwise I'm not on the track anymore on the grass. So there wasn't a lot more that I could do. He also had no battery as well. He had no battery by lap 30 or something silly. So I always had an advantage down the straight, but I didn't want to waste it all. The smarter decision from him would have been to just, whenever I was with the DRS in front of him, or coming to overtake him, let me pass. And when I didn't have the DRS and he had the DRS, let him pass a lot of the times, before even the braking zone, so that we lose as little race time as possible battling. But that wasn't what happened, and that kind of resulted in a lot of lost time.
Yeah, well, a missed opportunity probably this weekend, but the pace was very good throughout. Quicker than Matty, I'd say, for the majority of the race and through qualifying. So positive signs. We wish you the best for the rest of the season.
Yeah, mate was probably quicker in quali, but he he got killed. So
true, very true.
That was unfortunate for him. He probably would have out-qualified me had he gotten his all 3 of his laps in. He was killed on his second lap, so he was nowhere near as fast as he could have been. But I don't know. A few mistakes. I mean, that 3-second penalty also ruined it for me, but also some silly racing decisions from myself and other drivers, I guess.
Well, it was good to watch. I think that's a good way to finish on. So, thank you for providing some very good action for us to look over.
You're welcome for the entertainment, sir.
So, we've spoken to fourth, we've spoken to third, we've spoken to second. We're now finally going to get to our race winner, Cameron Searle, who had a very interesting time of it. Cameron P1 at several times during that race. It probably didn't look like the win was possible, but an unconventional strategy in the end that I have to admit both of us did question at the time, but you managed to overtake everyone and take the race win.
Yeah, that race was long. I think that's the main point of it. We got about halfway through and we were just confused about why it was taking so long. The safety cars were all over the place today. I think any of the top 5 could have won it. Just, it exploded behind me.
Yeah, it was interesting watching what was going on behind. Were you resigned to the fact that you were going to get passed by the 2 of them at one stage?
I wasn't resigned to it. I thought they were actually going to fully catch. But I had sources feeding me ERS levels of those 2, and I was much higher, much stronger. And as the tyres were balancing out, I still thought I had a good chance for it.
I mean, qualifying. Actually, the sprint race. That's what I was going to ask you about. We didn't know it at the time. We kind of assumed that it was a wheel problem, but to come back through the field, I think you dropped to 16th, going back to 6th. Your racecraft, and we saw it in the main race as well. The racecraft was on point this weekend.
Yeah, racecraft is something I pride myself on, just not getting into dangerous situations as much as I can. It did pay off today. It was a wheel disconnect in the sprint, but then just managed to make the most of everyone else battling to pick my way through cleanly.
Yeah, it was really good to watch. Alex, do you have anything to add on that?
I'm just going to congratulate you on the absolutely amazing win. To be honest, the strategy call there was completely spot on, and I mean both of us, as Tom said, that we thought it was going to be you're going to be struggling quite a lot at the end of the race, but I'll give you the title for the tyre whisperer, the 21 lap odd mediums right to the end, holding up. Well, they kind of held themselves up, but holding up the field and coming out of the race win with 3 seconds on top of that as well. That was some very good driving there, and we saw it throughout the sprint race as well. You had some very good and clean overtakes as well.
Thank you.
And I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I think you might be the new championship leader. I'm not 100% sure because of the points that we got from the sprint.
Oh yeah.
Do you think this championship is possible?
I'm not thinking about the championship. I'm just I would want good races. Last time I was here, I was way too inconsistent. I just hoping I can be in the top few each time. So.
Well, it has been an excellent start to the season. Second last time out in Kota, and then a win this evening. So very well done, and we wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Well, that That was quite the event, wasn't it?
Definitely, yeah. Lots of ups, downs, twists and turns. They didn't know who's going to come up on top at one point, and then all of a sudden it gets flipped on its head. Some really good battles on track. 8 people into one corner and only coming out with one broken wing and a yellow flag was quite a miracle, to be honest. We still had a safety car pot to even choose from still. The end of the race brought some great action to what was probably one of the best sim races that I watched.
I concur. That was probably the most action-packed BUSR race that I've ever been a part of. Very enjoyable to commentate on. Next week, we are heading to the Hungaroring. So maybe not quite the exciting on-track battles there that we saw this week, but should be a very interesting race as well, because it looks like we've got a lot of drivers that could be contending for that championship when we get to Abu Dhabi in how many weeks? 6 weeks' time? 5 weeks' time?
Yep, and it seems like that's going to be quite the spectacle to go down over the next couple of weeks, with Cameron, Geek, Matty, Joe, Jareki all making up some great progress, and especially with Joe telling me as well that he hasn't been practicing that much in F1 23 at all, really. Had this conversation, he only had a couple of hours in it before the start of the season, and he's making up some great progress, even though he's on the controller as well. And I just thought, it's been a really interesting season. I definitely do want to be here for all of it, to be honest.
Well, hopefully everyone watching enjoyed it as much as we did. We are going to sign off for what has been a bit of a shift this evening. Nearly 2.5 hours of racing action for you. Hopefully it's been as good to watch as we have made it out to be. It's been very enjoyable, though. From myself, it is going to be a goodbye.
And from me as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we will see you next time.
If you're ready, we'll maneuver. Reaching out. There is no place and no moment in history where I could stand and say, oh, it begins here, now.